Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Ino sees Naruto's scars. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Team 10 stood on top of the academy eating lunch, after learning who was on what team after graduation. While they were waiting for their sensei to pick them up, Ino said, "Man, I can't believe that Forehead got on the team with Sasuke-kun. Life is so unfair," she whined quietly. Seeing that neither Shikamaru or Choji was listening, she focused her frustration on them. "Hey, are you listening to me?" Ino paused in her rant because she noticed that both Shikamaru's and Choji's attention was somewhere else. When she followed their gaze, she saw something of the side of the building. "What are you looking at?" she demanded loudly. She walked closer to take a better look, and saw Sasuke eating lunch inside a classroom. A few moments later, she noticed Naruto jump into the room through the window. She couldn't see more because the curtain fell down, blocking their sight. "What the hell is Naruto thinking that he's doing?" she grumbled. A few moments later, they watched Sasuke jumping out of the window to who knows where. "Serves that baka right. Troublesome Ino, that's Naruto in a henge." Ino blinked in surprise and was about to argue that when something, or rather someone else, jumped out of the window. They watched as Sasuke took the opposite direction that Naruto had chosen. Ino blinked and asked, "Why would Naruto attack Sasuke-kun, only to henge into him? More importantly, how did he beat him?" she demanded, half hoping that Shikamaru would answer her question. Instead of Shikamaru, the answer came from an unexpected source. Choji snorted in response. "I haven't talked to Naruto in a while, and even I know that he's doing that to trick Sakura. Just look down." Ino did as Choji told her and noticed the benches down on the walkway not too far from the academy. They were often used to eat lunch from various academy students. Ino watched as Sakura and Naru Sasuke talked. Ino's eyes narrowed before a small smile appeared on her face. She watched as Naru Sasuke and Sakura almost kissed, before Naru Sasuke grabbed his stomach and ran away. Ino's smile dropped when she saw that. She and her two teammates kept watching what would happen next. A few moments later, the real Sasuke came by and said something to her none of them could hear. It was obvious that whatever Sasuke said wasn't nice because Sakura looked ready to cry. Ino looked very thoughtful at what she had seen. "Naruto, you just gave me a great idea to get rid of some competition." Ino's smile had grown into a smirk, something Shikamaru and Choji had learned from experience that it spelled trouble. When Ino looked at her two male teammates, both of them raised their eyebrows. "Not a word, you two," she growled. "Not a word. This is extremely troublesome," Shikamaru muttered. Choji just kept eating his chips. 2 hours later, Team 10 had met their sensei. Currently, Ino stood outside of Naruto's apartment. She was startled when a voice interrupted her. "The beast is not home, girl." Ino jumped in surprise. She looked behind her and saw a man at the bottom of the stairs. "What are you talking about? And who are you anyway?" "Unfortunately, I am the demon's landlord and he's not here if you're waiting to see him. But if you're here for the usual, I got the lock on the second window broken so you can get in." The landlord paused for a moment. "But you didn't hear that from me. CYA girl." He turned and walked into his apartment on the first floor. Ino blinked and thought, "Beast? Demon? What the hell is he talking about? Why doesn't he fix the window if it is broken? Well, if Naruto is not home, I might as well get comfortable." Ino had made her way on the balcony to the second window and found that it was really easy to open and climb inside. When she got into the apartment, she scrunched her nose when she saw a few empty ramen cups around the room. The room looked like a normal bachelor's room. It wasn't a total mess though. The furniture looked like it belonged in the trash since it did not match. After she had explored the apartment somewhat, she muttered to herself, "It's not as messy as I feared it would be, but it definitely needs to be a lot cleaner for my plan to work." After 20 minutes of waiting and tapping her fingers on the dining table, she got bored. "Maybe if I clean this place up a bit, I can make my plan work like I want it to." 15 minutes later, she had finished cleaning up the apartment and had thrown all the trash away in the dumpster under the stairs. Ino made her way towards the fridge and opened it. She frowned when she saw that the milk was expired. "Damn it, Naruto, you really need to stock and check the expiration's date, damn it." She slammed the fridge door closed, but it popped back open as the shelf in the fridge fell and the milk carton spilled over her dress. "Damn it, Naruto. This is all your fault for having shitty furniture," she growled. She reached for the paper towels holder and began to pull a couple off to wipe the milk off of her dress when several $20 bills unrolled with the paper towels. She looked at the money and said, "Idiot, what kind of person hides money in a place like that? When he gets back I am going to give him an ass chewing and teach him the proper way to hide money." She grabbed the money and put it in her dress pocket and whipped the milk the best she could off her dress. She said, "Damn it, the milk is staining my dress and is going to ruin it unless I wash it. My shoes are soaked too. I will come back later and deal with the baka." Her plans decided she left the room, but made sure to lock the window and the door on her way out. About an hour later Naruto walked toward his apartment and thought, stupid sensei and stupid test. What kind of idiot tells us not to eat before training? As he approached his apartment he saw his manager at the bottom of the stairs and Naruto frowned. The man said, "Hello boy. Tomorrow's the 1st and you know what that means." Naruto said, Yeah, I know. That means today is rent day. Let me run up and grab my money and come back and pay you. As he walked past the man and pulled out the keys to the door and unlocked the door before opening them and he went wide-eyed and thought, shit, what happened? As he ran inside to the clean apartment. He looked around and thought, no, please God no, where are they? Please someone tell me this is a joke. As he went through his entire apartment and he ran back out and saw his manager and asked, hey, has anyone been in my apartment today? The man said, no, now where is my money? Naruto walked back inside and he was biting his lip as he tried to hold back some tears and he walked over to the paper towel roll and began to pull and his eyes went wider the more he pulled and he thought, oh God, please no more, not my money too, please have mercy for me for once. As he unrolled the entire roll. He heard footsteps coming up the steps and he looked around and saw his fridge door opened and he saw milk all over the place and he said, this is just great. He heard his manager say, what's great? Where's my money and what's with the mess? If I see this mess again I will raise your rent now where is my money boy? Naruto gulped with his back to the man and said, I don't have it. Somebody broke in and took it. The man looked around the apartment and said, doesn't look like a break-in. You're not trying to pull a fast one are you? Naruto turned and said, no sir, I swear, I had the money hid but somebody took it and they cleaned my apartment. I swear. The man said, well I don't believe you. Since you don't have the money then you're be evicted effective immediately. Now leave. Naruto sighed and he went to open the cabinet when the manager blocked him and said, no way boy. You forfeited your rights to everything in here for lack of payment. I am going to have to sell everything in here just to make up for the damage you did to the furniture in that broke window. Naruto frowned and said, can I at least? The man interrupted him and said, no, nothing. Get out before I call Anbu boy. Naruto sighed and slowly walked out taking one last look at his things and walked down the stairs with his hands in his pocket. He thought, what now? I don't have any more money and the old man already informed me that now that I am a genin I don't qualify for the orphan allowance I've been living off until now. I can't even go get any ramen because I owe them money as well tomorrow. Who would do that? Who would break in and take all my precious items and my money? As he looked up at the sky and thought, great, looks like it's going to rain tonight. Where can I stay? Ino walked into her bedroom and took her shoes and dress off and looked at the stain and frowned and thought, well this is ruined. Naruto you idiot, you owe me a new dress. As she checked the pockets and then her eyes got wide as she thought, shit, I took his money. Wait, he owes me for my dress and he would have to pay me for a new dress so I will just take this. Time to go shopping. As she changed and grabbed the money before leaving. That evening Ino was walking back into her family flower shop with a bag and Inoichi looked at her and said, hey princess, what's in the bag? Ino said, oh, I got me a new dress today because that baka Naruto fridge shelf broke and spilled milk all over it. Inoichi frowned and asked, what were you doing at Naruto place dear? Ino said, well I was going to help him and forehead get hooked up but after waiting for a while in his apartment I got thirsty and checked his fridge and like I said the fridge shelf broke. Inoichi asked, and how did you get inside his apartment dear, did he leave the door unlocked? Ino said, no, his manager told me one of the window was broken and I could get in through it. Inoichi bit his lip and said, I see, well it was nice of Naruto to give you some money to pay for your dress. So did you help him and Sakura get together? Ino said, well, not exactly, he never showed up. Inoichi blinked and asked, what do you mean he never showed up? I know you already spent your allowance last week shopping and you didn't get any money from me, so how did you get the money to buy that dress? In a more scolding voice, Ino said, well, when I was cleaning up the milk off my dress with some paper towels, money fell from the paper towel roll and I had took it because I was going to give it back to him when he got there, but then I decided to come home and change, but by the time I got here my old dress was ruined, so I just took the money I had on me to replace my dress. Inoichi blinked again. Please tell me you just didn't tell me what I think you did. He took another deep breath. Ino Yamanaka, what the hell were you thinking, young lady? You took his money without permission and then spent it. I raised you better than that. What do you have to say for yourself? He demanded loudly. He even released a little key to make sure she talked. Ino was frightened because her dad never yelled at her and said, I don't know, Daddy, he was going to have to pay me for my dress anyway. She protested. Inoichi took several breaths to calm down and asked, really? Please tell me why you think he should pay for your dress when you broke into his apartment without his permission. Then you took his money and then you somehow expect him to pay for it? You are going back to the store and return it. If they can't, then you won't get your allowance until you've paid for it. But I can't, that store doesn't take returns. Then that means you won't get any money from your allowance until you've paid for it. How much money did you take from apartment? And Cammy, help me if I find out you lied to me about this. 200, Daddy, she told him quietly. Inoichi's eyes got wide and he said, do you have any of it left? Ino slowly shook her head. No, I don't have anything left. I got matching shoes and hair ribbons. I wanted to impress Sasuke-kun. Inoichi slapped his forehead and grabbed some of his hair and said, my god, girl, do you have any idea what you have done? Ino said, I'm sorry, Daddy. Inoichi glared at her and said, it's not me you should be saying sorry to, Ino. That would be Naruto. Here, take this money to his apartment and tell him what you told me. And I swear if I hear you left anything out there will be serious trouble for you. He gave her 200 to pay Naruto back with. You better make him believe you, or you won't go shopping for the next year. Ino took it and quickly left and headed toward Naruto's apartment. When she got there she noticed the dumpster below his stairs was on fire and she went to the door that was open and saw the manager and she knocked and said, excuse me, but is Naruto here? The manager turned and said, oh, it's you. Now, he moved. I am just cleaning up all this trash he left. Ino frowned and said, I see, thank you, as she turned and walked back home. When she got home her dad was standing there waiting and he said, well. Ino said, he moved, Daddy, and his manager didn't know where he moved to, so I will have to wait till I see him again. Inoichi sighed as he took the money and said, fine, but you are to remember to pay him back and tell him you're sorry. I guess since he moved there's nothing you can do for now. As he put the money in the safe and said, I am heading out to meet up with the guys for our weekly bar night. Lock up for the night and I will see you tomorrow. He turned and left. Ino sighed and locked the door before turning and shutting the lights out before going up to her room and thought, stupid Baka getting me yelled at. Is this the thanks I get for trying to help him and Forehead get together? The next day Naruto woke up hearing voices and looked around and thought, good thing I know how to get in here. As he quickly opened a window and left. He headed toward Training Ground 7 for his genin test. Ino got up and got dressed and started heading down the stairs when her dad stepped out of the kitchen holding his head and a cup of coffee and he said, morning, princess. Sleep well. Ino said, yes, Daddy. Inoichi nods and said, well, good luck today and have fun. Ino said, I will try, though I wish I was on Sasuke-kun team. Inoichi said, don't forget what I told you, young lady. Ino said, I won't, geez, as she quickly left. When Naruto got to his team training ground, Sakura screamed, you're late, Baka, it's 7:45 and you were supposed to be here at 6. Naruto said, sorry Sakura-chan, my alarm clock broke. Sakura hit him over the head and said, Baka. An hour later Kakashi showed up and explained the rules, and when he told about the food all three of them held their stomach and Naruto thought, I need to win this because it's free food. I don't know how long it will be before my next meal. Time skip 14 days later. Inoichi, Shuza, and Shikaku, all three were standing in front of the Hokage and the third said, thank you three for coming so soon, but you see there is a delicate matter that I need your help with. Shikaku asked, what is it, sir? The third said, as you are all aware, since the Mizuki incident I have stated how I did not like having a spy for another village working at the academy, and I have had someone I trust keeping an eye at the academy. This person has told me that for the past 2 weeks when he has arrived at the academy he has found a window open and he is usually one of the last to leave and he has checked and double-checked to ensure all windows and doors are locked before leaving, and yet again this morning he has found the window open again. The academy has one of the top 3 security setups in the village where no one can shush in besides those hours the academy are actually open. Anbu patrol around it at random intervals. I do not like this. I am afraid someone may be either trying to get information on Leaf Ninja from the Academy records or possibly setting up a situation to remove the next generation of shinobi. Both of which would be disastrous for the village. Inoichi asked, "So what is it you want us to do, sir? Why not have Anbu take care of this?" The third sighed and said, "I am afraid that Danzo might be involved, and though I can't prove it his root program is still operating even after I ordered it disbanded. I believe that he may even have someone in my Anbu spying for him, and if he does then they might find out and tip off whoever is doing it or use this person work to get that information for Danzo. I trust you 3 can capture and interrogate whoever it is who is breaking in and discover what this person or persons is doing there. So far there is no actual evidence of any of the archive rooms being broke in, though the library has been." Shikaku said, "That doesn't make sense, sir. The Academy library has just the basic of chakra, theory on the basic 3 and other basic things like that every hidden village has." The third said, "Exactly, which is one of the reasons this is troubling. The information in the library is basic info, yet someone is actually going in there for some reason. I don't know if they are attempting to bypass security to get to the archive room or what, but you must find out who is behind this and why. I do not want anyone else to know about this." Shuza said, "We understand, sir. Besides the shinobi files and the medical files, the archives for the academy are the only place you could get information on skills, medical history including allergies, family, and history of most of our forces. When do we start?" The third said, "You are to meet my contact in the academy at 5 o'clock tonight in room 301 and remain hidden until you discover how this person is getting inside and what they are after. Once you have gotten that info, bring the person here so they can be dealt with accordingly." All 3 men said, "Yes, sir." Before they left, at 5 p.m. all 3 men went into the academy and into room 301, and Iruka looked up and said, "Ah, I have been expecting you 3. The Hokage had informed me it would be you guys. I hope you can find out who it is." Inoichi said, "It's good to see you again, Iruka, though I wasn't expecting to see you besides when you come into my shop to buy flowers for Anko again." Iruka blushed and said, "Yes, well anyways I must be going. Here are the keys to the building and I will retrieve them from you tomorrow morning. Good night," as he handed them a set of keys. After Iruka left, Shuza asked, "So how do we want to do this?" Shikaku said, "Inoichi will take the northeast corner of the building and watched from the tree line there. I will watch the southwest corner from the Jimto butcher shop sign. From either of those places we should be able to see anyone sneaking in and discover how they do it. You Shuza will stay in here somewhere under a genjutsu to observe our friend. We will watch him or her for a while before we capture them and then interrogate them. We will use our combat frequency on the radios." Shuza nods and casts a genjutsu over himself as he sits in the back of the class as both men lock up and take their respective hiding spot. Around an hour after dark, Inoichi hears a tree limb snap and he looks around and clicks his send button twice, alerting his teammates as he sees a figure walking out of the woods and heading toward the swing. He watches and thinks, must be a false alarm because by his height he's just a kid, as he continues to watch. The person sits on the swing for several minutes just dragging his feet as he moved back and forward before he gets up and takes the swing off the hooks and puts it over his shoulder and heads toward a telephone pole and pulls out a pair of kunai and ties them to his feet and then stabs them into the telephone pole and begins to climb up the pole. And Inoichi thought he must not know how to do the tree climbing. As the person got to the top and crouched down and unties the kunais before stabbing them into the telephone, holding the chain to the pole, and he grabs the other end of the chain and he jumps back off the pole and begins to swing toward the building and swings on top of the building. The person then turns and pulls the chain hard enough to pull both kunais out. Inoichi clicks his send button and asked in a low whisper, "Did you see that, Shikaku?" Shikaku said, "Yeah, I saw it, pretty creative if you ask me. Think it's a civilian." Inoichi frowned and said, "Perhaps, maybe a kid whose parents won't let them be a ninja judging from the height. It would explain why they want into the library." Shikaku said, Let's observe a little more. Across theater radio. As both men watched, the person walked to the air vent on top of the building and pulled up on it, shocking both men, and the person stepped inside and set it back down, and Inoichi said, "Well, whoever this kid is, he sure the hell knows how to bypass the security. Never thought to use the air ducts." Shuza was in the classroom hiding when a tile on his ceiling began to move, drawing his attention, and a shadowy figure fell through on top of a desk before reaching up and repositioning the tile roof, and Shuza thought, that explains how he gets in. As he watched the person walk down the steps, closing the shades to the window, and exit the classroom, he got up and followed the person as they went into the bathroom. He called over the radio in a whisper, "Guys in the John, come on in." A few minutes later, the person came out and went toward the library, and Inoichi and Shikaku arrived with Shuza, who was outside of the library, and Inoichi asked, "Anything?" Shuza said, "I think it is a kid, but he knows where all the security for the building is, as well as where people would be able to see him or her from the outside, because he closes all the windows before he gets in the open." Inoichi said, "Sounds like a stealth expert," as both men nod. They quickly hide as the person comes out, shutting the light off before they could see who it was, and walk back toward the classroom he entered in. The three men followed as the person walked back inside and turned on the light and walked toward the desk and set a book on the desk and reached into a drawer and pulled out a pencil and a piece of paper. Inoichi asked from outside the door, "What do we do?" Shikaku said, "This game's gone on long enough. I think we all agree on what this kid's up to, though he's going to have to answer some questions. Let me catch him in my shadow, and then you both go in and tie him up." As both men nod, Shikaku's shadow goes under the door toward the chakra signature in the room, and he said, "Kagemon no Jutsu success." And the other two men run in and blink as they see a person stuck looking in a desk drawer, and Shuza said, "It can't be." As he walked over, as the person caught was frozen in place and couldn't even talk. Inoichi frowned as he walked over and looked at the person who was sitting in the chair naked, and he began tying up his other hand, and when he was done he said, "Okay, release it." As the shadow withdrew, the person said, "What the hell, why couldn't I talk?" Shikaku walked in and frowned as well and said, "You're going to talk all right, Naruto. What the hell are you doing here?" Naruto looked up and he said, "Hey, I know you three, you're Ino, Choji and Shikamaru dads." Shuza said, "Yeah, we are. Now tell us, what are you doing here, Naruto? We saw you sneak in, and we have had reports somebody's been doing it for the past 2 weeks. It's not looking good for you." Naruto looked at them and said, "You wouldn't believe me." Quietly, Inoichi said, "Try us. Either you tell us what's going on, or we will have to take you to Ibiki. I know you know who he is, Naruto, so please talk." Naruto looked up and said, "I've been sleeping here at night since I got evicted from my apartment. Someone broke in and stole all my money and took all my most treasured items." Inoichi's eyes got wide and thought, "Oh God, please let me be wrong." And asked, "When did this happen, Naruto?" Naruto said, "The day of team assignments. Kakashi-sensei was 3 hours late getting here, and by the time I got home I had been robbed." Inoichi frowned and Shikaku said, "Why didn't you report it, Naruto?" Naruto said, "I told my manager, but he told me he didn't believe me because whoever did it cleaned up the apartment besides the milk they spilled. I wanted to tell the old man, but since I had already been in trouble that week because of Mizuki, I was afraid to. Especially when he already informed me I no longer qualify for the orphan's allowance fund since I am now a genin. I can't go to Ichiraku either because I owe them for that week's ramen money, so I haven't been able to even eat besides what I find in the woods, which are a few berries and a raw fish." All three men frowned and Shikaku asked, "What's with the books? I assume the reason you're naked is you washed your cloths in the bathroom." Naruto said, "Yeah. I can't go to my team training covered in blood and dirt, or my teammates will hate me like most of the village does." Inoichi asked, "What about your sensei, Kakashi, was it?" Naruto sighed and said, "He's 3 hours late for everything, and when he shows up he tells us some stupid excuse, and then we do 1D rank, and then he dismisses us and shushens away, and I don't trust him yet, and I can't really talk to my teammates about it. Sakura-chan's mom hates me and has been arrested for attacking me before, and Sasuke's so busy wanting to kill someone he won't even look at me without contempt." Inoichi asked, "What about your training? What's Kakashi teaching your team?" Naruto said, "Nothing. He's always talking about how Sasuke got great potential and Sakura a smart thinker, but all he tells me is I need to improve on everything, but he hasn't actually told us anything on how to improve. Shikaku picked up the book and said, "Kanji for beginners. Why are you reading this?" Naruto looked away and Shikaku frowned and took the pen and wrote something, and Shusa's eyes got wide and was about to say something when Shikaku shot him a glare and he asked, "What does this say, Naruto?" Naruto looked at it and he said, I don't know, you got messy writing." Shikaku frowned and said, "You can't read kanji, can you?" Naruto sighed and said, "Only a word or two that I was able to get Iruka to help me with. I was not allowed in the library when I was here or the one in town, so I thought that since I was staying here then I can at least try to make up for some of the things I missed." Inoichi said, "But didn't they teach that to you your first year here?" Naruto said, "I kept getting kicked out of class or had to stand in the corner with a dunce hat on holding buckets of water just because I asked a question or even breathed loudly." All three men looked at each other and Inoichi said, "Come out here in the hall, guys, let's discuss this. You stay here, Naruto, and we will be back in a moment. I am trusting you at the moment, so don't try to escape." Naruto said, "I can't even if I wanted to. I never was taught how to do the rope escape either," as he looked down. As they were walking out, Inoichi asked, "Hey, have you seen Ino since that day?" Naruto said, "No, why?" Inoichi said, "Nothing." As the three men walked out and Inoichi walked to the wall and punched it hard, making both men look at him. Shusa said, "You alright, man? You're more upset than I thought you would be." Inoichi sighed and said, "Follow me, I don't want him to overhear," as he led them to another classroom and closed the door. When the door was closed he said, "He's telling the truth. Someone did take his money and I know who," making both men wide-eye. Shikaku asked, "Who?" Inoichi looked down and said, "It was Ino," making both gasp. Shusa said, "No way, why would she steal from Naruto?" Inoichi said, "She told me she went to his apartment and his manager told her about a window she could get in. She told me she got thirsty and when she was in his fridge she spilt milk over her dress, and when she went to clean herself off she found where he had his money in the paper towel roll and she pocketed it, and since her cloths were staining and she was tired of waiting she left with his money. When she got home she decided her dress was ruined and thought since it was Naruto's fault her dress was ruined he should replace it, so she spent the money. When I found out I made her take the money back after I replaced it, but she said he had moved. I guess he had already been evicted by that time and she brought the money back. I told her to pay him back and tell him she's sorry, but I guess she hasn't yet." Shikaku said, "This is troublesome. What do you think we should do?" Inoichi said, "I don't know." Shusa asked, "What do you think he meant when he said someone took his treasured items and cleaned his place up?" Inoichi chuckled and said, "The last part's easy, Ino. She's a neat freak just like her mother was. She must have been bored and cleaned up his apartment." Shikaku frowned and said, "I know what he meant by treasured items. I heard Shikamaru mention it once. He said the first time him, Choji, Kiba and Naruto all four played a prank together, they had lunch together and Naruto when he finished turned the cup over and wrote the date and their initials and the word prank on it." Inoichi said, "So used cup of ramen noodles which could be mistaken for trash which Ino cleaned up and threw away. Great," as he sighed and leaned on the teacher's desk in the room. Shusa said, "This is bullshit, guys. He's practically living on the street and you all saw how skinny he looked. He doesn't deserve this crap, and if people find out about this he's going to be in even more trouble. The council may even try to get his ninja license suspended." Shikaku said, "Minato must be rolling over in his grave doing this to his son." Inoichi nods and said, "Yeah, and the Hokage is most likely going to keep that secret until long after he's dead. I agree, he has to be his son." Shusa nodded and said, "Yeah, no doubt about it." Shikaku said, "We better get back in there to Naruto, he must be scared." Inoichi said, "No, I think he's broken. You all saw it, his eyes show he's tired and not just physically." Shusa said, "Guys, what if we took him in?" Shikaku said, "You know that law that the council passed saying he couldn't be adopted, Shusa? All the clans but the Uchiha were against it." Shusa said, "I don't mean like that. I mean, what if we took him as our apprentice? Think about it. You all read the report on the Mizuki incident where he created nearly 100 kage bunshin from what Iruka said." Inoichi said, "Yeah, and..." Shikaku sat back and thought, That's not that bad of an idea, Shuza. I mean, sure, he can't use our clan, just you, but we all saw how good his stealth and creativity is. If he was properly trained along with that jutsu, he could become a one-man capture and interrogation team. Inoichi said, yeah, and we all know 2 other people who would love to pass on their knowledge. Shuza shuddered and said, yeah, and I was thinking that Inoichi here can help him with mental conditioning to help handle all the mental crap he's had to deal with. I can teach him better eating, including if he ever had to eat of the land again, how to do it better. Shikaku said, I could teach him strategy and capture, and if they agree they can teach him interrogation. Inoichi smirked and said, I just had a great idea. I know where he can stay as well, but we might get into a little trouble because we would have to reveal his secret to the kids. Both men's eyes got wide and Shikaku asked, what are you thinking? Inoichi said, since this whole mess started with Ino, I was thinking I can really lay in the guilt trip on her to teach her that her actions has consequences and get her to let him have her loft I gave her that she's never gotten around to actually using yet. It's got its own kitchen, bathroom, bedroom all set up already. Then we can have the kids actually befriend him the way we should have back then. Shikaku sighed and said, it was just so troublesome back then. I mean, with the shit between the Cloud incident and then with all the accusations of exactly how the Cloud knew where the Aris room was, and then the Uchiha massacre made it where by the time things settled down all our kids done had their own little clique. Sure, I heard and saw that the boys had befriended him on some level that usually got them in trouble, but never real friendship from what I could tell. Shuza said, yeah, we 3 have always tried to if not be neutral then at least mildly supportive of him. We treated him just like any other person would be treated most of the time. Inoichi said, that's why it's so hard for me to stomach right now. I raised Ino better than this, and I had actually thought when she came home to tell me Naruto had moved that perhaps he had actually found someplace to stay, but I never would have expected this to happen. Shuza said, I think we should return to him now and talk to him. Each of the men nodded, and as they walked back into the room where Naruto was still tied down, Inoichi cut the ninja wire and said, all right Naruto, we need to have a talk. Naruto said, would it be possible for me to go get my cloths on? It's getting cold and I am sure they are at least dry enough for me to be able to wear again. Shuza left the room and came back a few minutes later and said, here you go, completely dry. As he handed them to Naruto, and all 3 men turned around so he could get dressed. Once Naruto was dressed, he said, so how am I going to be punished? I know staying here was wrong, but it was the only place I could think of to try and stay warm and dry. In a depressed voice that cut all 3 men to the core. Inoichi said, Naruto, I have a confession to make. You see, I know what happened to your money, and if what we guessed was your treasured items is right, I know what happened to them. Naruto's eyes got wide and he asked, who did it? Inoichi sighed and said, before I tell you who did it, let me tell you how and why so you don't jump to the wrong conclusion. This person didn't do it because of the Kyuubi or because they didn't like you. The person who did it actually went to your apartment that day to help try and get you and Sakura together. How? I don't know, but anyways, when this person was knocking on your door, your manager told her about one of the windows she could get in. She went inside and sat down and waited for you, but she got bored and she's a bit of a neat freak, so she started to clean your apartment while she waited, picking up what she thought was just trash, but I think what those ramen cups she threw away was actually your special treasures, right? Shikamaru told his dad here once about how you wrote Tier and your name on the bottom of a cup. Naruto said, yeah, I can't afford pictures myself and anything of real value is destroyed on my birthday, so I thought that this way would at least help me remember some of my good memories, but even that seemed to fail now. That explains my treasures, but what about the money? Why did Ino do it? Making all 3 men wide-eyed. Inoichi asked, how? Naruto said, you're trying to make sure I won't hate whoever did it, so that means you care for her. You said it was she, so that meant it was a girl or woman, and I can already figure that Ino would try to help me and Sakura get together so she can try and get with the Teme, so why did she do it? Inoichi sighed and said, when she finished she got thirsty and went to get something to drink, but your fridge shelf broke and spilt milk all over her cloths, so she tried to clean it up with paper towels, and that was when she found the money. She told me she was going to hold it until you got back, but then the stain started to ruin her dress and so she went home to change. Naruto sighed and said, so all this happened because we just missed each other. Damn Kakashi-sensei for being late. At least she didn't just take it and spend it or do it to actually harm me like I was thinking. Can she at least give me back my money because I can then pay my bill and get something to eat from Ayame and her dad? As his stomach grumbled. Inoichi sighed again and Naruto looked at the three men and said, "She spent it, didn't she?" Inoichi said, "Originally yes. I hate to say it but the girl is shallow. I raised her better than this, but when she got home she saw her dress was ruined in her opinion and thought that it was your fault even though it was all her fault, and she thought you should have to pay to replace her dress, so she took the money and spent it, and I didn't learn about it until late that evening when she returned home. When I asked her about the bags and the money she told me everything, and I ordered her to return it and scolded her telling her how disappointed I was, and she informed me the store she got it from doesn't take returns, so I gave her money out of the register. I planned to make her work off, sent her back to your place, but she was told you had moved by your manager. She came back and I told her to find you and tell you she was sorry and actually mean it and pay you back. I had no idea that this would happen, Naruto, or I would have tracked you down myself, but I thought that perhaps you had actually gotten a new place and moved. Shikaku, Shuza and I have never hated you, Naruto, or told our kids to be mean to you any. We each wanted to help you when you were younger, but the council passed a law the third had to agree to when he passed your law, and that was that you could never be adopted, though all the clans were against this law with the exception of the Uchiha. We respected the Yondaime's skills enough to have faith in him and thus you, but we were outnumbered. The most we could do was keep the council from getting enough votes to have you either banished or killed, and then when you actually met our kids we had wanted to get them to befriend you, but there was an incident I won't tell you about since it's classified that nearly caused us to go to another war between a clan here in Konoha and another major village, and then by the time that mess calmed down the Uchiha massacre happened, and by the time we could do anything by then our kids had already made their groups of friends, and luckily Shikamaru and Choji hung out with you a few times, but I regret that Ino never did." Naruto sighed as he looked out the window and said, "I see, it's alright. I don't blame Ino or any of you. I thank you for telling me all this, but it doesn't change anything anyways. I broke the law by staying here, so how am I to be punished?" In a dead voice with no emotions, Inoichi said, "Well, you may not blame Ino, but I do. She was not raised that way, and I tried to teach her right from wrong since her mother passed away when she was a baby, but I guess I failed there, but she is going to be severely punished." Shuza asked, "Naruto, we talked about it after we figured out what happened, and we would like to do something that could help you out where nobody can say anything but also help us out in a way." Naruto looked at them and Shikaku said, "You see, Naruto, we would like to take you as our apprentice. All three of us would. We watched you sneak in here from outside and you show skills as a stealth expert, and it would not be hard to turn you into a capture and interrogation expert like all three of us are with the help of Ukage Bunshin no Jutsu that you learned. Since Kakashi not actually teaching you, we can go to the third and get him to do that once we explain the situation." Inoichi said, "We also have two friends that like you and have actually saved you a few times in the past that are also looking for someone to pass on their skills to, and we think you would be perfect for it." Naruto frowned and said, "Look, I appreciate the offer, but I don't want pity or guilt." Inoichi said, "Oh, it's not. You see, I want your help in teaching Ino a lesson, and this will give you a chance to show not only her but Shikamaru and Choji the real you, and for you to make some real friends. However, there is one thing we would like to do, and we can't do it without your permission." Naruto frowned, thinking over the idea, and asked, "What?" Shikaku said, "We would like to tell our kids the truth, Naruto." Naruto thought a moment and looked down and said, "You want to tell them about the Kyuubi?" "Why?" Shikaku said, "Shikamaru has tried for years to figure out exactly what it is that most of the village dislikes you about, and because of the law I can't tell him, though he has actually guessed it a few times without knowing it, but he has told me he does not think you deserve it and that it was troublesome in his own words. Choji I know has helped him, and he said anyone who eats Ichiraku ramen can't be bad, so both of them would accept you, and that would give you a chance to actually have someone your own age to talk to about things without secrets. Something you never had before." Inoichi said, "Because of what Ino has done, she needs to be taught that her fairy tale world she lives in does not really exist, or she's going to go out on a mission and die. I don't want to see her, so I think if she were to actually learn the truth and what her actions has caused, then it will be the wake-up call that she really needs. It's my fault for treating her like a princess all these years, being my only child, but I can't overlook this." Naruto sighed as he thought and said, "Will she accept me, and will she keep my secrets?" As he looked down, Inoichi said, "She will, or I will disown her," making everyone's eyes wide. Naruto looked at him shocked and asked in a low gasping breath, "Why?" Inoichi said, her actions have consequences, Naruto. Everyone's does. She can't treat people like shit and get away with it forever. Sooner or later she's going to cross the wrong person and that's it. I hate to say that, but it's the world we live in. I want her to open her eyes and actually see the world, and by showing her what you have had to deal with the past 2 weeks and then explain to her about the remarks your manager had said along with why it's so hard for you now, then she will see exactly what her actions have done. Naruto looked down and Shikaku said, you can also drop the act. We can all three tell you're pissed at her. Even if you deny it, your body language still tells it. Naruto shook his head as tears started to fall and said, you're right, I am pissed at her. She treated my life like it's nothing, throwing away my treasured items. It's worse than what the damn villagers do to me when they ignore me, because Ino has actually known me from here in the academy. Hell, we even met before the academy, but she doesn't remember. If it wasn't for me, then her and Sakura would have never have been friends in the first place. She broke into my apartment, one of 4 places in this village where I don't feel judged by the glares or the words or the threats or the hatred for the Kyuubi, and she destroyed it by acting as if she has the rights to it, and then she took my money and actually felt like I owed her. How can I forgive that? I don't blame you, sir, or anyone, but I do blame her. I have nothing left but the cloths I am wearing. My manager took everything, my food, my furniture, my cloths, my ninja tools that I didn't have on me. Everything, and what's worse is when I was waiting on a roof for him to leave so I could try and get some of it, he actually started to burn it all so I could never get it back. I fucking tried to kill myself that night because I have nothing now to live for. As he pulled up his sleeves and showed the 3 men 10 scars on both wrists, shocking them. Inoichi thought, Ino, I have never been more disappointed in you than I am right now. Naruto just pulled his knees up to his chest and wrapped his arms around his legs and put his head on his knees and cried. None of them could say anything as they watched Naruto break down, and soon his sobs grew quiet and Shuza checked him and said, he's out. I don't know if it's from the mental and emotional strain, the fact he's starving, or just plain tired, but he won't be up for a while. Inoichi closed his eyes and said, Ino, if Naruto refuses to accept what we offered him, then you will be kicked out on the street with just 1 set of cloths and your ninja equipment like he is, and I will disown you. As your father, I am sickened by you at this moment. As he walked over and picked Naruto up and said, my god, he doesn't even weigh 100 pounds, guys. Hell, Ino weighs more than him and she diets all the damn time. Shikaku sighed and said, let's take him to the Hokage office and tell him everything, though I think he knew all along. All 3 men nod and leave the building after locking it up and then shush into the Hokage tower. The third was in his office doing paperwork when the 3 appeared, and he looked up and said, what happened to Naruto? Inoichi said, let me set him down and I will explain everything, sir. The third nods and Inoichi walked to the couch in the corner and set Naruto down, and he turned back and Shikaku said, you knew all along, didn't you, sir? The third asked, whatever do you mean? Shikaku shot him a glare, and the third pulled out his pipe and stuffed some tobacco in it, and after lighting it and taking a puff he said, yes, I did. Kakashi had noticed something was wrong with Naruto as he kept getting weaker and weaker during the bell test and seemed pale. He noticed the scars on Naruto's wrist and instantly realized what they were from, though how they actually scarred I don't know, since usually all his wounds heal like they never were there. I went to the ramen stand to talk to them and they said he hadn't been in, which is odd, so I went to his apartment. I learned he was evicted and I had the manager sent to Ibiki because I suspected foul play, and he told how he informed a blonde-haired girl with blue eyes in a purple dress how to get into Naruto's apartment through a window he purposely sabotaged. He then told about what happened with kicking him out and how Ino had left earlier with spoiled milk on her dress. I knew only one person who matched that description, and I had an Enbu check your trash, Inoichi, which I am sorry, but I had to make sure, and they discovered the dress, so I sent out a team to find Naruto and bring him to me. They couldn't. I had Kakashi follow Naruto on several nights after training, and Naruto was able to lose him every night somehow, making all 3 men wide-eyed. The third took another puff and said, anyways, Iruka then informed me last week about the break-ins at the academy, and I suspected it was Naruto but couldn't be sure, so I had Kakashi observe it for a couple of nights to make sure it was him and not someone else, and he told me of his findings. I tried to find him another place, but no one else in this village would allow him in since they have all heard he was homeless somehow. I couldn't bring this matter up to the council, so I decided to give you this mission and see if you 3 might be able to help him in some way. Because of what has happened, Naruto is now considered a flight risk like the Uchiha because he does not have anything actually tying him to Konoha any longer, so I am having to remove him from Kakashi team because Kakashi can only keep an eye on one at a time. I had planned to watch and see how it worked with my all-seeing crystal ball, but I had an annoying villager claiming someone had stole from her, breaking several windows, and she claimed it was Naruto, though I have Anbu reports showing that it was her own son that broke the windows and her china collection playing stickball with rocks in the street. Inoichi looked at Naruto and said, "Do you guys agree?" Shikaku said, "Of course we do." Shuza nods and Inoichi said, "We would like to take Naruto as our apprentice, sir." The third smoked another puff and asked, "To what end?" Shikaku said, "Sir, with what we saw and know of Naruto, we would like to turn Naruto into a CIA member." The third blinked and said, "Really, we have not actually had one of those in over 30 years, though are you sure you three could teach him that?" Shuza said, "Not alone, sir, but we all know two other individuals who both want someone to pass on their skills to, and both like Naruto, and what we can't teach him they can." The third looked at Naruto and asked, "Is he really out?" Shikaku said, "Probably for a while, sir. He knows the truth about Ino and he's mentally broke now, sir, plus he's starving to death." "Why?" The third did some hand signs and the room glowed, and the third said, "If I agree to this, I have a mission for you three as well as some information you should be made aware of." Shikaku said, "You mean that he's Minato's son?" The third's eyes got wide a moment and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Shuza said, "You can't hide it forever, sir. The older he gets, the more people are going to recognize him for who he really is. Especially with our help." The third sighed and said, "I won't confirm or deny anything, but that is not what I am needing to inform you about. Jiraiya is his godfather and plans to return to teach him a few things the Yondaime wanted him to know. There is also a group of S-rank criminals that will be coming for him because of the Kyuubi. Among them is Uchiha Itachi." Making all three men pale. The third said, "Itachi is actually a double agent. The Uchiha massacre was ordered by members of the council without my permission because the Uchiha clan was planning a coup d'etat. He is currently sending information to Jiraiya when available about the group. In return for this, he has made two requests: protect Sasuke and protect Naruto. If you ever encounter him, you cannot blow his cover, and he won't blow it, and you will have to fight, but he won't kill unless he has no choice, but he may injure you. The group he is with is more dangerous to Konoha, and then the Kyuubi was because the leader is none other than Uchiha Madara, the man responsible for the Kyuubi attack. Besides myself, only the three members of the council who ordered the Uchiha massacre knows that he is still alive. Not even Jiraiya knows about him. This info cannot get out, or it could result in the destruction of the village. The only reason I am telling you three is because you are putting not only yourselves but your family in danger by doing this, and you will have to take his training serious. If they get Naruto, Konoha will fall." All three men looked at each other and Shuza asked, "Why has this information's not been told to the council?" The third said, "Because the council can't keep secrets, and if this became public knowledge it could cause a civil war. The only way I have kept Naruto safe the past few years is by holding this info over those three members." Shikaku said, "Danzo, and your advisors. They are the only ones with enough power to pull that off." The third closed his eyes and nodded, and Shikaku said, "We understand, sir, but we want those other two to be allowed to teach their trade to Naruto." The third said, "Very well. I am sure I know who you are talking about, but you cannot tell either of them what I have told you, and you have to get them to agree to it. I approve it, but I will not force them to teach him. Now I must figure out where Naruto is to stay since you agreed to teach him." Inoichi smiled and said, "I got that covered, sir, though I would like a full review of Naruto teachers in the academy, sir, because we already learned he doesn't know the rope escape jutsu. He doesn't know how to read or write kanji either, and that is the beginning of what I fear is a long line of things he was denied knowledge of." The third said, "Very well, then I leave Naruto in your capable hands, and thank you from an old man who has seen his grandson suffer. Nothing we have discussed can be told under punishment of death." Shikaku said, "About that, sir, there is one thing though. We have asked Naruto for permission to tell the kids his secret so he can turn to them for advice without being afraid or having to keep secret. He has not agreed yet, but I think he will, at least for the boys. It will take time for him to trust Ino after this has happened." The third said, "Yes. I can't imagine what it must have been like for him to lose everything like that." Inoichi said, It's worse than that, sir, he didn't just lose it. Ino threw his memories away in the trash because she thought it was trash. I will help him work on overcoming this and also help him deal with the mental state he is in, sir. The third nods and said, well, if that is all, then good luck, men. All three nod, and Inoichi walked over to Naruto and picked him up, and he said, I will take him onto my place. Go ahead and explain it to the boys because I will be explaining it to Ino tonight. Give me tomorrow to try and gain his trust a little, and then we will go from there. The other two nod and leave, and Inoichi shushens with Naruto in his arms. When he appeared in his home, Ino was sitting on the couch reading a magazine, and she gasped and said, Daddy, what's Naruto doing here and what's wrong with him? Inoichi glared at her and said, shut up and sit down, young lady. You are in very much trouble. I will deal with you in a few minutes. As he turned and walked up the stairs and took Naruto to his bedroom and set him down on his bed before removing his shoes and covering him up. Ino was scared by the look her dad had and thought, what did I do? When Inoichi walked down the stairs, Ino started to say something, and Inoichi said, if you so much as say one word, I will bend you over my knees and spank your ass until you can't sit. I am very, very disappointed in you. As he walked in front of her, walking back and forward several times trying to calm himself down. Ino thought as she trembled under the key coming from her dad, what happened? I didn't do anything to deserve this, did I? Inoichi stopped and looked at her, and she flinched, and he said, all right. I think I have calmed down enough to tell you why I am so upset. Do you remember what happened 2 weeks ago, the day you got your teams? Just nod, don't speak or I might hurt you. Ino nods, and Inoichi said, you remember how you broke into Naruto's apartment and took his money? Ino nods again, and Inoichi said, because of you Naruto did not move but was evicted from his home because that money was not only his food money but his rent money. That was all the money he had in the world. Making Ino eyes wide, and she started to say something, and Inoichi raised his hand and she closed her mouth. Inoichi said, it doesn't end just there either. Because of your actions his landlord refused to even let him take anything from the apartment, claiming he would have to sell them to cover the rent or some bullshit story landlords do, so all he had was the cloths on his back. He left and snuck to the roof of another building to try and get something after the manager left, but the manager burnt everything Naruto owned. Making Ino feel a little guilty. Inoichi saw this and said, but that's only just the beginning of the suffering Naruto has had to endure because of you for the past 2 weeks. No, it gets much worse. You see, that money was his food money to pay his tab at the ramen stand, but Bekwase he didn't have any money, he couldn't get any food, so he has only had a fish he caught in the river and a few berries to eat in all this time. Inoichi stopped and walked back and forward a few times, and he asked, if you were Naruto, what would you have done in his situation? Ino, you can speak. Ino said, I don't know, maybe go to a friend's house. Inoichi glared at her and asked, and what friends does he have? Ino opened her mouth and said, I don't know, daddy. Inoichi said, none. You see, there are things about Naruto I can't tell you without his permission, but because of these things Naruto is hated by nearly the entire village, and it is not even his fault. In fact, he should be seen as a hero instead for it, but he is kicked out of stores, glare at, spat on, hit, overcharged, and countless other things since the day he was born. Ino. It's not because of his pranks or anything like that. Ino gaped at this and thought, what could make people hate Naruto like that? Inoichi sighed and said, that's not the worst of it, Ino. You have hurt him like no other person has ever hurt him before. You cleaned his apartment, didn't you? Ino nods, and Inoichi asked, were there ramen cups around the apartment? Ino said, yeah, all over the place, really messy. Inoichi glared at her Aegean, making her flinch, and he said, you see, Ino, Naruto doesn't have a lot of valuable things before that because he couldn't afford them, but those ramen cups were like your flower press, dear. On the bottom of each of those cups were names, dates, and events that something good happened to him in his life. He had them laying around like trash, so if someone broke into his apartment again, they would think they were just trash and not destroy them, but you invade his home, somewhere he felt somewhat safe, and threw his precious memories away. Ino said, but I didn't know. If I would have just left them and sat quietly. Inoichi said, you shouldn't have even been in his apartment in the first place. As he gasped for breath, shocking her, he continued, your actions have consequences, Ino, some drastic. Come with me, as he got up and walked up the stairs. Ino got up and followed, and she followed her dad into his bedroom and saw Naruto passed out, and Inoichi walked over and pulled Naruto's arm out and said, "Come here, young lady, and look what your actions caused," as he pulled up Naruto's sleeve. Ino gasped as she saw the scars and said, "No, don't tell me that." Inoichi grabbed her arm and pulled her out of the room and back to the front room and pointed to the couch, and she sat down rubbing her arm that had a red handprint from his hand, and he said, "Yes. That night he tried to kill himself, Ino, because he felt like he had nothing left to live for. He never knew his parents, Ino. He's never had anyone besides the Hokage, who is a very busy man, the old man at the ramen stand, and his daughter, and maybe one or two other people. Besides that, he has been alone, treated like shit because of something he had no control over, and he never even knew why he was treated that way until the day of your graduation. What I am about to tell you is exactly how Naruto passed that day." Ino looked at her dad in interest, and he said, "The teachers at the academy have purposely sabotaged his education, Ino. So bad I can't even begin, but because of this and the reason he is hated, he has too much chakra to produce the bunshin, and nobody would teach him how to control it." But the assistant Mizuki pulled Naruto aside and told Naruto there was a second test he could take, and if he passed he would graduate. He told Naruto the location of the forbidden scroll of seals in the Hokage Tower and told him a location to bring it to, and told him if he could learn one jutsu from it he would pass. Naruto, who even though was sabotaged by the teachers, has trained himself enough that he was able to sneak by 4 patrols of Anbu and 10 Chunin. Break into the location where the scroll was, which has the best security in the entire village, and was preparing to leave the tower when the Hokage discovered him. Naruto was able to incapacitate the Hokage long enough to escape the tower and the village. He went where Mizuki told him to go, and he learned a jutsu from the scroll before Iruka showed up. Naruto then learned he was tricked, but Mizuki attacked both them, wounding Iruka, who saved Naruto by taking a Fuma shuriken in the back. He then told Naruto why he was hated, though changed it enough to make him think it was his fault. Naruto got away while Iruka and Mizuki fought, but when Mizuki taunted Iruka, Naruto overheard it, and Iruka actually told the truth and believed in Naruto as the hero he should have been, and Naruto came back and saved Iruka from the killing blow. Naruto then took that jutsu he learned and beat the hell out of Mizuki, nearly killing him. Iruka then congratulated Naruto, and since the jutsu Naruto learned was the Kage Bun Shin no Jutsu, a Junin version of the one he failed in the academy, he gave him his own headband. The Hokage then informed all of us who were looking for Naruto the truth, and Naruto was allowed to pass. Ino was floored and said, "I don't understand, Dad. Why is he hated and why is he here? I can understand you being mad at me now, and I bet if Naruto found out he would hate me." Inoichi snorts and said, "Oh, don't worry, he knows. I told him," making Ino eyes wide. He continued and said, "Tonight the Hokage had my team investigate the academy because someone has been breaking into the academy for the past 2 weeks at night. It turns out Naruto has been the one who's been doing it. He snuck in there and has been washing his cloths in the bathroom and sleeping on the floor in the academy. Did you know that when you were in the academy he was not allowed to go to the library? Because of that, since he's been there those nights, he's been trying to teach himself what he's been sabotaged so he could be a better ninja, so people will quit hating him. When we discovered this, we had to interrogate him, and he told us why he was there and everything that has happened. He didn't know who would take him money and throw his treasured things away. Do you have any idea how it felt to see someone emotionally broken and know your own daughter is the cause of this person's suffering? It killed me to tell my teammates what you did, and then when we had to tell him, I would rather be stabbed by a kunai than do that." He then tried to say it was all okay. He didn't hate you or anything, and just asked if he could have his money so he could eat, and then asked what his punishment for breaking into the academy so he could stay dry and a little warm would be. He is nothing but skin and bones now, Ino. He weighs less than you do. His outfit hides it, but his body is being damaged from the hunger. We all could tell he was lying, and we gave him a choice to become our apprentices and learn from us because we learned his sensei has been ignoring him completely. He turned us down because he didn't want pity or guilt, Ino. Think about that. Going through all this hardship and he won't take help. He wants to earn his own keep. If you would have been there, I would have hurt you, Ino. I am your father, but there are some things that can't be forgiven." We then told him we knew he was lying about you, and he finally broke. Ino, the fake smiles, the laughs when he was hurting, all broke at that moment. You have hurt him and I don't know if he will ever forgive you and I don't know if I ever will either. You think everything is black or white, everything will have a happy ending and nothing bad will happen. Well, guess what, you're wrong. This world is cruel and painful. After he broke and curled himself into a ball and cried himself to exhaustion, we took him to the Hokage and he agreed to let us take him as our apprentice. Since he has nowhere to stay, he will be staying here. Your actions, Ino, have consequences. People can be helped or hurt by them, and this time your actions have hurt someone you know greatly. I have decided for the time being that I am going to let him use your loft. Ino jumped up and said, but, and Inoichi punched her in the stomach, knocking the air out of her and scarring her at the same time. He glared and said, no buts. I know I gave you that loft for when you get older, but you live under my roof and go by my rules. I have spoiled you, Ino, and treated you like a princess since your mother died, but that ends now. You're an adult and I am treating you as such. You have scheduled hours you are to work at the flower shop unless your team activities interfere with them. If you do not show up for them, then you will be punished the first time in a deduction of pay, the second time a write-up, and the third time I will fire your ass and hire someone else. You will no longer get an allowance and you will no longer take cash out of the register or the safe for your own little wants. You will work for what you have or you will have nothing. You are responsible for your own laundry, your own healthcare products and your own rent. The first 2 hours of each day you work will be deducted for your room and board. You are not allowed to make your own lunch hours, so you can go and chase after the Uchiha and be gone all day, or as I said, you will have pay cuts, write-ups and termination. If you want a day off you have to tell me in advance and I will check the schedule to see if I can replace you that day. If I can't, tough. Ino screamed. This is all Naruto's fault. Inoichi slapped her across the face and screamed, no, this is all your fault. Naruto did not ask you to break into his apartment. Naruto did not ask you to steal his money. Naruto did not ask you to clean his apartment or get in his fridge. That was all why. Oh. You, and don't you dare scream in my face again or I will disown you and kick you out. I did not raise a thief and I did not raise someone to break into people's homes. If I so much as see or hear of you blaming any of this on Naruto or having others blame him, I will carry out my threats. You have not only hurt Naruto but you have hurt me and I can't even look at you right now. Now get your ass to bed. As he moved out of her way, Ino, who was holding her face, ran up to her room and cried all the way up. After she was gone, a quiet voice said, please don't do that again, Yamanaka-sama. She may have hurt me but I am used to being hurt. Ino's doesn't deserve that. You're her father and all she has. I am not worth it. Making Inoichi gasp as he looked at the top of the stairs and saw Naruto standing there with a dead-to-the-world look in his eyes and a sad face. Inoichi asked, how much of that did you see and hear? Naruto said, enough, as he turned and walked back down the hall. He stopped outside the door he saw Ino go into and he knocked. Ino, who was on her bed crying, heard the knocking and quickly got up and went to the door afraid, and when she opened it she saw Naruto and gasped as she saw the look on his face and she took a step back. Naruto said, I'm sorry that happened to you. If it helps, I'm leaving so you don't have to worry about me taking your place or ever see me again. I asked your dad not to do that again because I'm not worth it. As he turned and started to walk back down the hall, Ino, who was still holding her face, said, wait. Naruto stopped with his back still turned to her and she asked, why are you hated? Naruto closed his eyes and said, I was born on October 10th, the day Kyuubi attacked. The Yondaime did defeat the Kyuubi like we learned, but he did not kill it. Nobody can kill something that's immortal, so he made it mortal by summoning the Shinigami and taking a newborn infant and sealed the Kyuubi into him, so that way when the baby grows up his chakra and the Kyuubi would merge together, and when the baby dies kill the Kyuubi with him. I was that baby. As he started to walk some more, Ino, who was wide-eyed, asked, then why were we told different? Naruto stopped again and said, the Yondaime asked that I've been seen as a hero, but the villagers called for my death. In order to save my life, the Sandaime passed a law saying that nobody was to mention about the Kyuubi to those who didn't know, or even about the law under penalty of death, but the people either ignored the law or got around it by telling others I was a bad person or I was evil or to stay away from me, and those our age picked up on the adult's attitude toward me and did it also. As he started to leave again, Ino bit her lip and asked, where are you going? Naruto said, to see the Hokage and resign as a ninja. I have nothing here anymore. I am leaving the village. Maybe I can find someplace in the world where people won't know me and I can. As he stopped talking and started to walk some more and he reached the stairs. Ino fell to her knees as she began to cry and thought, it's all my fault. He's leaving because of me. If I hadn't have broken, none of this would have happened. As she pulled her knees to her chest and began to cry. Inoichi looked at him from the bottom of the stairs and thought, I have no right to stop him. Ino knows the truth now so she can understand, but I think the price was way too high. I can't believe I actually slapped her, my own daughter, because I was angry. As he looked away. Naruto walked out of the door from the house to the shop and screamed, can someone come lock up? As he walked to the door and unlocked it and began to walk down the road. Naruto had made it about 100 yards from the shop when he was frozen in place and he said, not again, as he couldn't move. Shikamaru's voice said, Kagemon no jutsu success. Choji bag him and tag him. Choji ran past Shikamaru over to Naruto and threw a gurney sack over Naruto head and body, and Naruto head came out of a small hole in the bottom and Choji tied it tight around his feet and grabbed the feet and said, okay. And the shadows stopped, and before Naruto had a chance to react, Choji slung him over his shoulder and Naruto screamed, let me go, damn it. Shikamaru walked over and put duct tape over Naruto's mouth and said, damn loudmouth blondes. Trying to alert the whole village. We are kidnapping you, damn it. Naruto's muffled voice came through the duct tape and Choji said, sorry Naruto, but as your friend we're not letting you leave. We don't care about the fox, but we do care about you. Naruto kept trying to get free as they walked down the street and Shikamaru said, won't work. We used this on my mom once and she couldn't get out, so we know you can't because you're not half as skilled as she is. Now I don't know what you think about Ino, and at this point I don't care, but when we heard what happened I knew you would try to leave and we can't let that happen, so we are kidnapping you from yourself. Now be a good little hostage and you can eat the ramen we have at my house for you. Naruto glared at him as he walked behind Choji. Naruto sighed and let his head down and quit trying to escape, and about 5 minutes later they arrived at the Nara's home. Shikamaru opened the door and Choji came in and Shukaku asked, do I want to know? Shikamaru said, it's too troublesome to talk about right now. Okay, you can release him now. Choji SATs Naruto feet down on the floor and Naruto made a run for the door only to be captured again by the shadow of Shikamaru, who turned him around and marched him to the eating table, and once they both sat down Choji sat 20 bowls of ramen on the table and Naruto looked at it and Shikamaru said after Choji took the bag off, either you eat it or I have my mother feed you, and that is way too troublesome. Naruto closed his eyes and asked, why are you stopping me? I am leaving the village. Choji slapped him over the head and said, no you are not. Naruto rubbed his head and asked, and why the hell not? A kunai hit the table in front of him and Yoshino Nara said, language young man. I will not have that kind of talk in my house. Naruto smirked and Shikamaru paled and said, no don't, and Naruto said, what the hell's wrong with the way I fucking talk, lady? I can talk any damn way I fucking please. You're not my mother, so don't bitch at me. Shikaku ran out of the house along with Choji and Shikamaru, and before Naruto had a chance to understand, Mount Saint Yoshino blew and she appeared behind Naruto grabbing his ear and dragged him toward the bathroom as he screamed. Ow. Let go of my fucking ear, lady. Outside of the house Choji asked, do you think he's going to be okay? Shikamaru said, no man, I never seen anyone who had the gall to do that to my mother. Shikaku said, I have. She castrated the guy and then she started at his toes and worked her way up using her kitchen knife to cut every inch of his body, and then she poured hot sauce on the guy's wounds before throwing him on top of a campfire and then used salt to put it out. The guy killed himself to end the pain. I fear our young friend is not long in this world. When they made it to the bathroom, Yoshino quickly bound Naruto's hands behind his back with a bath towel and she stuck his head in the toilet while she flushed it, and she turned on the sink water and pulled out a bar of hand soap that is especially designed for butchers, and she pulled Naruto's head up, and as he opened his mouth to gasp for breath she shoved the soap into his mouth, closing it with the palm of her hand, and she looked into his eyes and said, Lesson 1 Naruto, that you missed out is when a mother tells you to watch your language, you will do it or you will have to have your mouth washed out with soap. I don't care how you talk outside, but when you are inside of my home you will talk with manners and respect. As she pulled the bar of soap out. Naruto glared at her and said, fuck you, you old hag. Naruto was shoved into the toilet again, and as he shook his head back and forward she grabbed his boxers and pulled up on them, giving him a wedge, forcing him to scream into the water, and she pulled him out, sticking the bar back into his mouth, and she glared and said, "Do you understand me now?" As she waited 30 seconds and pulled the bar out. Naruto said, "Go to hell, bitch." 20 minutes later, when Shikaku and the boys came back inside, Naruto was sitting at the table with a towel over his neck and he belched and soap bubbles came out of his mouth, and Yoshino said, "Manners, Naruto." Naruto said, "Excuse me, mother." In a quiet voice. Yoshino said, "Good, Naruto, now eat up and remember to keep your elbows off the table." Naruto said, "Yes, mother," as he took slow bites at a time of his ramen. Shikaku blinked and said, Dear. What happened while we were outside?" Yoshino cleaned up another bowl and said, "Oh, I was just teaching Naruto here on manners." "Nothing really, right, Naruto?" Naruto said, "Yes, mother." Shikamaru looked at Naruto and asked, Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto said, "Of course I am, why wouldn't I be?" Choji said, "Well, you seem a little. What's the word I am looking for?" Shikamaru said, "Mannered. Why do you keep calling my mom mother?" Naruto glanced at Yoshino, who walked into the kitchen, and he said, "Help me, guys, she's scary and tried to kill me, please." As she came back in the room and she asked, "Please what, Naruto?" Naruto gulped and said, "Please, may I have another bowl?" as he made sure his elbows were off the table. Yoshino said, "All right, but this is the last one." Naruto said, "Thank you," as he slowly ate it. When he was done he asked, "May I be excused?" Yoshino said, "Of course. Go take a bath and you can stay in Shikamaru room tonight. I think I got some cloths that can fit you." Naruto said, "Thank you, mother, you're too kind." Shikaku asked, "Dear, why does he keep calling you mother?" Naruto said, "Yoshino-sama has asked me to think of her as my mother when here in her house. It is such an honor I could not refuse, because to do so would be insulting." Yoshino said, "Thank you, Naruto, now go get a bath." Naruto gulped and asked, Do you have a bathroom without a toilet, mother?" Yoshino said, "Of course not, now go on, get." Naruto quickly got up and left toward the bathroom, grabbing Choji and Shikamaru's hands. When they got to the bathroom, Naruto pulled them inside and closed the door and said, "Okay guys, that woman is too much for me. I am making a break for it and want to know if you want to come with me. I figure we can turn on the bath water and lock the door and sneak out of the window after creating 3 cage bunchins and having 2 henge into you guys, and that will give us a good 10-minute head start. I will make some cage bunchin be that will henge into us and blanket the village, and while she is trying to find us we can sneak over the walls and be in wind country before sunrise. We can then head toward a port and catch a boat and get the fuck out of the elemental country." "Oh no," as Naruto realized what he said and covered his mouth, but Yoshino appeared behind Naruto and plunged his head back into the toilet, shocking the boys as she pulled him up and shoved the soap into his mouth. Shikamaru said, "Now you see why she is troublesome." As the soap was pulled out, Naruto said, "Troublesome." The next morning Naruto awoke and found he was on the floor in Shikamaru's bedroom on a pallet, and Choji was near him on the floor, and he looked around and started to move his feet, and Shikamaru said, "Morning, Naruto." Still with his eyes closed. Naruto groaned and asked, "How did you know I was up?" Shikamaru sighed and sat up and pointed to Naruto's little toe, where a piece of string was tied around it that ran to Shikamaru's finger. Naruto said, "Troublesome, troublesome, troublesome, Shikamaru." Choji said, "Troublesome, Naruto. You sure are troublesome this morning." Shikamaru said, "I see you understand what that words means now, huh?" Naruto said, "Yeah, instead of cussing you use that word as a substitute." Shikamaru nods and Naruto asked in a quiet voice, "What now?" Shikamaru said, "Now we get up and you put on those cloths and we go eat breakfast. Then our dad is going to take you out to the herd and teach you a little about our family and then test you somehow. Choji and I have to go meet our team." Naruto said, "Troublesome, I am late, and Kakashi-sensei." Choji covered his mouth and said, "Is no longer your sensei, Naruto. Our dads told us last night you were reassigned to our dads because they are going to train you to be an CIA specialist." Naruto, after Choji moved his hand, asked, "What's a CIA specialist?" Shikaku, who was standing in the door, said, "Capture, interrogation, and assassination specialist. Konoha hasn't had one in nearly 30 years. Naruto looked at him and said, But why me? I mean, why are you and the others doing this for me? I want the truth, please. Saying the last part quietly. Both Shikamaru and Choji frowned a little as they glanced at each other, and Shikaku said, because Naruto, with the skills you already have, that would be the best for you. I mean, you are able to paint the Hokage mountain in broad daylight without being caught, break into 2 of the highest security building undetected, both of which show you are a stealth master in the making. Your stamina is low, Junin, already, because I know from my own experience chasing you a few times when you were younger under Hokage-sama orders. Then there is the fact how exactly you are able to figure out ways to get into secure places bypassing security. That shows you are very intelligent when you want to be, even with the damage done to your education. Those are skills that will help you in capturing with traps and deceptions. The intelligence part, you have a tool that you can use beyond anyone's belief in the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, where you can search a large amount of area in a short amount of time, because a little no fact about them is whatever they learn when dispelled the original learns. That will help in general information gathering, and with the help of 2 friends who specialize in torture and interrogation, they can teach you how to get information out of enemies. Then there is the assassination part. You may not know this, but the Nara clan are also known as assassins Bekwase of what we can do with our shadows, and that is just a few of the things we are known for. The Oths will help you as well in that area. Naruto frowned and looked down and asked, then what will people think of me? Shikaku asked, does it really matter to you that much what people think of you, Naruto, or what your friends think of you, Naruto? Naruto closed his eyes and said, I have no friends, remember. Choji snorts and said, damn, are you dense, Naruto? Naruto flinched at the cuss word and his eyes darted back and forward, and Shikaku said, it's 7 a.m. Naruto, and my wife's gone to the hospital lab until 2 helping make medicines. Naruto said, thank God. I don't know how much longer I could keep that act up, as he looked for his shoes. Shikamaru said, I agree, Naruto. She's very troublesome, but you're wrong about not having friends. I admit that Choji and I weren't there for you when we were in the academy much, but we both think of you as friends, Naruto. You have always treated Choji nice about his weight when every other kid has picked on him at one time or another, and you and me always had fun because I thought that you were hiding how smart you were in the academy like I was, because when you came up with those pranks that were so much fun to do, they were brilliant. That's why the day you started wearing that orange jumpsuit and acted like a happy-go-lucky idiot, I thought you were trying to get people to underestimate you, so I decided to do the same thing and acted like I was sleeping through class also. I had fooled myself, or I wouldn't have only occasionally talked to you after that, because I thought it was all an act, and that was the time that my dad started to teach me more of our clan techniques as well as care for our herd and Choji's as well with his family restaurant, so our after-school time was gone then, or we would have hung out after school. I'm sorry you think I wasn't your friend, but I still consider you one, and so does Choji, and we want to prove it to you. Naruto looked out the window and said, I don't know what to think, guys. Choji said, then how about let's have a fresh start, the 3 of us. We can earn your trust and friendship, and we get to know the real you. Naruto turned and looked at both of them and said after several minutes, all right. I will try, since both of you have never hurt me outright before, but what about, as he stopped and bit his lip. Choji said, she's going to have to earn your respect on her own, Naruto, as well as your forgiveness. I am shocked and hurt by her. Almost as shocked as I was when we saw you had actually beat Sasuke that day. Naruto's eyes widened and said, you saw that? Shikamaru chuckled and said, yeah, we were on the roof across the way and saw that along with Ino. We also saw when you nearly tricked Sakura into that kiss. That's what I think she went to your apartment that day in the first place for, was because she came up with some kind of stupid plan. Naruto sighed and said, alright. I don't want to talk about her or that anymore right now, guys. You said we need to get breakfast, and I am still hungry, as he rubbed his stomach. Shikaku, who was standing in the door, said, that's understandable, Naruto. Your body ate most of the fat reserves it had built up during that time, so you really don't have much in the area of food energy in your body. However, you can't have ramen all the time, Naruto. You're going to have to cut it down to once a day, because you need to eat a more balanced diet to get stronger, and also to make sure you don't accidentally die from shock of eating, which happens occasionally when people go through what you just did. I will meet you boys at the table, as Yoshino has already prepared the food, so hurry up, as he turned and left. Shikamaru got up and got some cloths out of his dresser and said, be right back, as he went to change. Choji got up and grabbed his cloths from another drawer and Naruto raised an eyebrow and Choji said, Shika and I hang out at each other's places so much it's just easier to keep half our cloths at the other's place for later use. As Shikamaru came back and dressed normal and Choji left. Shikamaru grabbed the cloths for Naruto his mother got him and said, these will do for right now. I think Dad and the others are planning on getting you some new cloths later today. Naruto looked away and asked, do you think I am the Kyuubi Shikamaru? Shikamaru walked over to his dresser and got a scroll and Naruto watched as a book popped out of the scroll and he said, this scroll is you Naruto, this book is Kyuubi. And he resealed it and said, you may have it in you but it's not you. Naruto smiled a small smile and Shikamaru said, you know, I think that's the first real smile I've seen from you in nearly 5 years. Naruto's smile slipped and said, Shikamaru said, don't worry about it. Here's Choji, better go get dressed or you will miss breakfast. Friends are friends but good food is something that comes first to Choji and their family. Choji said, hey, jerk. Earning a snicker from Shikamaru and a laugh from Naruto who quickly got up and when he came back a few minutes later he had on a pair of black pants, a fishnet stocking with a brown shirt underneath it and his weapon holsters on each pant leg. All 3 boys came down the stairs and went to the dining table and Shikaku said, though my wife's not here still eat with manners Naruto so in case she shows up she won't go medieval on you. Naruto said, you know, I think if her and Kyuubi ever got in a fight in the bathroom she would win and send him packing. Making everyone laugh. Shikaku said, yeah, she is like a beast sometimes. Shikamaru said, sometimes. Shikaku snickered and said, alright, most of the time but I love her. They all 3 ate quickly some steamed rice and biscuits with a few small deer bacon. After they finished Choji said, well we got to go Naruto to meet our sensei. We will see you later okay. Naruto said, alright. Both boys then left and Naruto asked, where am I to stay at? Shikaku said, let's worry about that later, we got work to do if we want to train. Follow me. As he lead Naruto outside and then they went inside a gate and walked toward a set of woods and Shikaku said, alright Naruto, I don't know a lot about your actual skill levels so I have a task you can help me with while I judge your skills. I want you to create as many cage bunchins as you can and have them form a straight line every 5 feet apart and I want them to pick up 2 sticks and walk along the edge of the fence around this field and then when they're in position I want them to march forward while hitting the sticks together until they make it back into this field. The noise should make all my family deers to come out of the woods. While that is happening the original you and me will then move one at a time into a holding pin where I can check them. Naruto asked, how will this help judge my skills? Shikaku said, by showing me how many you can make, how well you follow orders of a superior, how much chakra you waste in making jutsu and also to test your stamina and how fast you learn because before we finish this I am expecting you will be able to check the deers yourself or at least check most of the things yourself so are you ready? Naruto nods and Shikaku said, begin when you're ready. Naruto said, oh, sorry sir. Shikaku said, just call me sensei for now. Naruto said, yes sensei. As he put his hands together and said, Kage Bun Shin no Jutsu. And 30 appeared. Shikaku frowned and said, I was told you could make way more than this Naruto. Did I hear wrong? Naruto said, no, I could make more if I had to why. Shikaku said, do it again but this time make as many as you can. Naruto said, okay. As he put his hands together and he gathered his chakra and said, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. And the clearing was instantly filled with Naruto's making Shikaku wide-eyed and he quickly got a rough count and thought, 400, not bad kid. And said, good, now do as I ordered. And the Kage Bunshin started to grab sticks and run around the edge of the fence but a few got into a fight and dispelled themselves or tripped so it took about 20 minutes to do as ordered and Naruto and Shikaku waited as they heard sticks hitting in the woods and Naruto saw as a deer came out and soon several others and more and he asked, hey. How come some have things on their heads and others don't? Shikaku said, those things are called antlers Naruto and those are men while the ones who don't are women. Naruto said, oh, I see. While this was happening Choji asked Shikamaru, what should we do about Ino? Shikamaru said, let's act like we don't know anything including where Naruto is. She still thinks he left and until he recovers a little I am not letting her get near him. Choji said, I know. Did you see the pain he's in? Shikamaru said, see it, I can still feel it. Ino has successfully killed the sun. I don't know if it will ever rise again, as they continued on in silence. As time passed, Naruto said, hey damn it, one just killed one of my Kage Bunshin. Shikaku said, yeah, we always have a buck or two that decide to fight instead of going with the herd. Don't worry about him for now. Naruto nods, and soon most of the deer and Naruto Kage Bunshin were in the field. Naruto asked, what now sensei? Shikaku said, alright, that was real good Naruto. Now you see that big square fence we have over there? That is the larger holding pin. What I want you to do is help separate the males from females and move the males into the holding pin. It might be easier to just move the females to that circle pin first, but this is a test for you as I will wait until you can do this. Naruto nods and asked, what if they attack again? Shikaku said, the males most likely will if you try to separate them right now. Naruto said, then I guess I will start with the females. As he walked over and opened the gate to the circled fence, and he looked at the females and then back at the fence and then the herd, and he thought, the females are mixed into the group, and if I want to get them I might take a chance of having the males attack, and even the females might attack him. And asked, hey sensei, if the deer can't see, do they get scared or are they easy to move? Shikaku blinked and said, I don't know, why? Naruto took off his belt and also took off his fishnet and shirt, and he walked over toward the herd and saw a female close to the edge of the group, and he threw his shirt over her head and she jumped back before it hit and his shirt fell to the ground. Naruto said, damn it, I thought that would work. Shikaku thought, impressive Naruto, but that won't work because even domesticated deer are skittish to things they can see and hear. Naruto picked up his shirt and slipped it back on, and he slipped his belt back on, and he motioned for 5 Kage Bunshin to come over, and he said, alright, here is what we're going to do. I want you all to tell the others I want them to start hitting the sticks and lead them all toward the square pin while I open the gates. Once we get them in that gate, it will be easier to divide the females without having the whole herd head back into the woods. The Kage Bunshin said, yes. As they took off and told, and when Naruto opened the gates, the Kage Bunshin circled the herd and started hitting the sticks again, and the deer started to run into the square pin. Shikaku said, well, you're half done, but what about the other half? Naruto said, I got a plan. As he said, alright guys. I want half of you to get all around the square pin and start hitting the sticks to scare them a little, but not to BAD. Shikaku frowned and thought, this might turn out bad. And Naruto said, now the other half, I want to prepare the gate that runs between both pens, and when a female gets near the opening, all of you on that side stop hitting and open the gate, but if a male starts going toward that side, start hitting again. Shikaku crossed his arms and thought, impressive but wasteful. As he watched as Naruto's plan did work, and after a few close calls of getting a male in the female pin, he was able to separate them. Shikaku said, well done Naruto for your first try, but it took you an hour to do so when you need to get it down to half the time, so dispel the clones and then we can prepare the next part. Naruto dispelled them, and Shikaku thought, I expected that to knock him out or at least give him a headache, but he seems fine. Naruto asked, what now sensei? Shikaku said, now Naruto, what we are going to do is call the females and check their health and see if any are in heat. Naruto asked, what's heat? Shikaku said, it's a time when the females can get pregnant. A female voice that both knew said, it's also the time when the males get overexcited. As they looked and saw Yoshino walking up. Shikaku said, you're home early dear. Yoshino said, it was an easy day, so they told me to go on home. So how's he doing? Naruto said, I am doing okay mother, but I took too long on separating the deer. Yoshino saw her husband nod and she said, well anyway, let's get to this. As she jumped over a fence and used a rope to lasso one of the female and pulled the deer toward a small square holding pin. Naruto watched and said, hey, how come you didn't tell me about that rope sensei? Shikaku said, you need to be more mindful of your surroundings Naruto. You got to realize Shikamaru, Yoshino and I all do this together every week, and we don't use bunchins like you did. You're going to have to learn to do that as well. Naruto nods as he watched, and Yoshino said, this one's clean, as she released the deer and it ran back into the woods. He watched as she got another female and pulled it into the pin and said, this one's got a small cut but nothing bad, as she opened another section of fence and the deer ran into another holding pin. She went on for about 20 females when she said, "We got a winner." Naruto asked, "How can you tell if a deer's in heat?" Shikaku said, "You will learn that later in some books I am going to loan you to read." As they watched as she pulled that deer into a separate pin away from the other deer. This went on for another 30 deer and 5 more were put in the heat pin and 2 more in the injured pin with the rest being released. After that was done, Shikaku said, "Okay Naruto, now it's our turn. Remember how you did to get the females and males separate. Do it again, but only let 5 males in the gates between the square and circle pin at a time. We will then walk along both sides and look for any wounds or any signs of sickness." Okay. Naruto nodded, and this time he went to the gate and Shikaku got on the back side of the fence away from him and started to hit 2 sticks and the bucks started to move, and after 5 got in, both looked at them and then released them into the circle pin. They did this for over 60 deer with only 3 going into a male sick pin. Naruto asked, "What now?" Yoshino said, "Now we do this." As she opened the heat pin and the females ran back into the circle pin. Naruto blinked and asked, "What did you do that for?" Yoshino said, "You see Naruto, those deers are in early heat. It takes a few days for full heat to hit, and if we let it happen then the males will fight each other and either injure each other or die, so since we need them all alive, what we do is when they are early in heat we release them into a pin with the males and let them mate." Naruto scrunched his nose and said, "I don't like this. It feels wrong." Shikaku said, "Because it is wrong. What we are basically doing is having the females mated until they get pregnant." Naruto said, "But why? I mean, isn't that the same thing as rape?" Yoshino said, "In a way yes." Naruto said, "It's wrong though." Shikaku said, "But they want to mate Naruto with the strongest males. When the females are in heat they are like fangirls in a way. They want to be mated by whoever they think is the strongest, so that is why the males usually fight to show their strength, but by us doing it like this then the females pick who they believe is strong at the moment." Naruto said, "But if what you're saying is true then you're saying that Sakura-chan and Ino should be." As Shikaku put his hand over Naruto's mouth. Yoshino glared at her husband and said, "Alright Naruto, let me try to explain it a better way than my idiot husband. Let's use people since you don't understand deer that well. You said Sakura and Ino for fangirls, which I agree with. Now they both believe that Sasuke is the strongest, so they want to be with him. Now Sasuke is not actually the strongest, but they think he is because nobody has fought him and proved they are stronger, so if Sasuke wanted to he could mate with one of those girls, but if he doesn't he runs away like those few in the corner of the pin are. As they leave the females alone the number of males who would mate with them gets smaller and smaller, so they have to guess who would be strongest next and so on and so forth, meaning next would be maybe Kiba, and then maybe Choji or Shino, and then Shikamaru and Yu. The females will eventually find a male that wants them and then they will mate, and until they are out of heat or until they are pregnant. Now after one of those two things happen the females will remember who chose them until their next heat, at which time it starts all over again next month, and none of the males actually had to fight to prove who was best. Naruto said, "I still don't like it but I understand it a little better." Shikaku said, "At least human females aren't like deer and have heats." Naruto said, "Actually they do." Yoshino said, "No they don't, not like deer Naruto." Naruto said, "Yes they do. I read about it in a book from Gigi office once. It's called Oven Later or something like that." Making Shikaku back up and Yoshino open and close her mouth a few times and asked, "What book was that Naruto?" in a sweet voice. Naruto said, "It's the one with the pink cover and the girl in a towel." "Why?" as he looked at her. Yoshino looked at her husband and said, "You're to give him the talk while I go see the Hokage. Do I make myself clear?" Shikaku nods and Yoshino leaves. After she was gone Shikaku said, "Well I think that's enough for today here Naruto. The injured will rest until their wounds heal, and in a day or two we will release all the others back in the woods. Let's go." As he lead Naruto away. At Training Ground 7 Kakashi arrived and Sakura said, "You're late and that baka Naruto hasn't showed up either sensei." Kakashi said, "That's because Naruto is no longer a member of Team 7. Sakura said, "Finally, that baka should not even be a ninja and now it's just you and me Sasuke-kun." As she wrapped her arms around him. Sasuke grunted and asked, "What happened to the Dobi?" as he broke free. Shuza walked up and said, "He was reassigned because his skills are better suited for a more specialized training." "How's it going Kakashi?" Kakashi said, Fine Shuza, but what are you doing here? Shuza said, I just came by to find out if there is anything special you think we should know about Naruto. Kakashi asked, what's his specialty going to be if I may ask? Shuza said, CIA. Kakashi's eye got wide and said, interesting. It's been what? 0.30 years since the last CIA ninja we had. Shuza said, yeah, the Naidem Hokage to be exact. So anything we should know. Kakashi closed his book and said, stealth is Anbu level already, chakra level is Cage level, but his control is Academy. He has no true taijutsu to speak of, and I have talked to Guy, and the only one he could think of that would fit Naruto he doesn't know, and I don't know enough to teach it. Speed is high Chunin if he goes all out, but most of the time he is actually mid-genin. Stamina is Junin level. Trap making is Anbu as well. His pain resistance is Junin level or better. He's also got senses as good as an Inuzaku. I wouldn't be surprised if he knows my previous post. Shuza said, about what we came up with also. Kakashi said, are you aware of his apprenticeship? Shuza said, yes, we are aware of all that. Kakashi asked, who's going to teach the other skills? The Hokage told me your trio was teaching him the art, but what about the other half? Shuza said, the dueling sadist. Kakashi chuckled and said, if they don't kill each other he should make a good one. Currently there is very little I can teach him besides experience and teamwork, since most of my arsenal is either too specialized or have too high of chakra control required, and I don't have the time to get it under control myself. Shuza said, don't worry about it. We will make sure he knows the truth. Well, take care. As he turned and left, Sakura and Sasuke were looking at Kakashi, and Sakura said, you lied to him, sensei. Naruto's skills aren't that good. Kakashi looked at her and said, actually Sakura, if Naruto didn't hide his real skills and had just a little better chakra control he could have been the rookie of the year the past 3 years. It's chakra control that held him back all 3 years. If his stealth skills were not Anbu level, then how did he paint the Hokage monument in broad daylight without being caught until he threw an exploding tag off the mountain to draw attention? If his speed and stamina were not as high as theirs, how did he keep from being caught for 3 hours by 2 squads of Anbu and 12 Chunin? I hate to tell you this, Sakura, but remember the ninja rule. Deception is a ninja best ally, and Naruto has deceived you and the rest of the academy for years. Sasuke gritted his teeth and asked, what does CIA stand for? Kakashi pulled out his book and said, capture, interrogation, information, and assassination depending on the situation. Now let's go to the academy and meet our new teammate. Sasuke said, why does the Dobi get picked for that and not me? Kakashi said, because you are not suited for that. You an asphalt-type ninja and Sakura is a medical or genjutsu specialist type. Now let's go. Both genin deflated at this and followed Kakashi. Earlier at Team 10 training ground, Ino walked onto the field slowly with her face down, and Asuma looked at her as Shikamaru slept under a tree and Choji ate. Asuma said, you're late, Ino. Ino looked up and had a bruise on her cheek and red tired-looking eyes and said, sorry sensei. Asuma got up and walked to her and asked, what happened? Ino said, a wake-up call. I did something that hurt someone I know really bad. Asuma said, I see. Is this about Naruto? At Naruto name, Ino flinched and Shikamaru sat up and asked, what about Naruto? Asuma looked at the boys and said, I thought your dads would have told you about it. Ino looked down and Shikamaru asked, about what? We had an old friend staying at my place last night, and when Dad and them got back they didn't want to talk about their mission. Was it something to do with Naruto? Ino said, it's my fault. I did something to him that hurt him really bad and, as she burst into tears again. Asuma sighed and said, it's okay Ino, did Naruto hit you? And Ino shook her head no, and Choji asked, what did you do, Ino? Asuma said, drop it boys, and if you want to know ask your parents. Ino said in a crying voice, it doesn't matter anyways. He's gone now. He left the village, making Asuma's eyes widen, and he asked, what do you mean, Ino? Ino hiccuped and said, he left last night. He said he was going to see the Hokage and resign as a ninja and leave the village, and it's all my fault. As she started crying again. Choji asked, it might help if you talk about it. Asuma said, drop it boys, and Ino, why don't you go on home while I go see the Hokage? Practice is cancelled for today. As he left in a swirl of leaves. Ino started to walk away and Choji said, "Hey Ino, are you planning to come by my house today?" Ino said, "No, why?" Choji said, "Good, I didn't want to go hide my valuables." CYA. As he turned and Ino's eyes got wide realizing he knew as she took off running away crying. Shikamaru said, "That was cold Choji." Choji said, "She deserves it though. At least for now. I want her to know she can't sweep this under the rug and act like it never happened." Shikamaru sighs and nods as they begin to walk away. In the Hokage office Yoshino had just walked in when Asuma shushined in and asked, "Did Naruto really leave?" Yoshino said, "No, why?" Making Asuma look at her. Asuma blinked and said, "But Ino said he left last night." Yoshino said, "He would have had Choji and Shikamaru not kidnap him and brought him to our place. In fact, I just left him and my husband to come see the Hokage." Asuma sighed and said, "Then why did they not mention it before and leave Ino?" "I see," as he realized why they did it. Yoshino said, "They must be trying to protect him from her for now." Asuma said, "Sorry to interrupt bye." The third chuckled and said, "If only all my meetings could be handled as such. So what can I do for you Mrs. Nara?" Yoshino smiled a sweet smile and asked in a sickening sweet voice, "What were you thinking letting Naruto read that book?" As she pointed to his Ichi Ichi Paradise book hidden under a stack of paperwork. The third paled and Mount St. Yoshino blew again as she gave him a verbal tongue lashing that lasted an hour. When Naruto and Shikaku all got back to the house Shuza and Inoichi had already arrived and Shikaku said, "It's time to go to Red's." As he grabbed Naruto's shoulder and all four shushined away. When they reappeared they were inside a private club and a man in a business suit said, "He's not allowed in here." Pointing toward Naruto, Shikaku said, "He's here with us and if our apprentice is not allowed in here we will take all of our business elsewhere Davin." Davin glared and said, "Fine, but I am not responsible for him or his health," as he turned and walked back to the bar. Inoichi said, "So what's the occasion?" Shikaku said, "Yoshino told me to give him the talk." All three men snorts and Inoichi pulled out a 20 and handed it to Naruto and said, "Take that and go try your hand at one of the games or get you a drink but that has to last you until we leave Naruto." Naruto said, "But I'm too young to drink and gamble." Making a few people around the room snicker and Shuza said, "The moment you put that headband on Naruto you're an adult. Now try and enjoy yourself and don't worry, we got your back." Naruto nods and looks around the room and after several minutes he walks toward a table that had 6 people sitting beside it and a man had a cup in his hand and he said, "Place your bets, Cho or Han." Naruto asked, "What do you mean?" The man said, "Odds or even kid, if the total of the dice comes out odd and you bet even you lose, if you bet odd you win. It's a 50-50 chance," as he talked with contempt in his voice. Naruto shrugged and placed the 20 on the table and said, "Cho." And the man waited until everyone placed their bets and he moved the cup and said, "Cho it's," as he paid the winners and grabbed the cash of the loser. Naruto got 40 and he placed it again down on the table and after the man sat the cup down said, "Han." And after all bets it came out Han. The dealer said, "Beginner's luck," as they went again and again. After 40 games the dealer said, "That's it kid, you have to be cheating somehow because nobody's that lucky." Naruto said, "But most of the time I called it before you ever rolled the dice and with all these other players here who have more experience than me how can I cheat and not be caught?" Davin said, "Let it go Rice. I have been watching and the kid's just lucky right now. Why don't you take your winnings and try a different game kid?" Naruto got the 750 he won already and walked away from the table and looked around and Davin said, "If you're this lucky, why don't you try your hand at poker at that table over there?" Pointing to a table where only 3 people were sitting. Naruto shrugged and walked over and asked, "So how do we play this?" The dealer pointed toward a picture of sets of hands under a glass top and he said, "The higher hand wins basically." Naruto sat down in front of the picture and said, "Alright, how much do I bet?" A man in a black cloak said, "Just bet your max and we will all match it since you're new here." Naruto said, "Alright." At the bar Inoichi asked, "So should we stop him or?" Shuza said, "Nah, he needs to see how Card Shark operates cause he may have to hit a club or 2 as he gets older for info." The dealer passed out the 2 cards to each and he flipped 3 over and he said, "Okay, anyone like to fold?" Naruto looked confused and the dealer said, "It means quit, kid." Naruto said, "No, that's okay. I got 4 a straight flush C." As he flipped his cards over and everyone else at the table threw their cards muttering about lucky idiots and damn demons. After Naruto got all his money and Naruto said, "I guess I will go all in again." The dealer said, "That will be 3,000 to call." 2 of the men got up and said, "I need a drink." "Come on dude," as he grabbed his partner. That just left the man in the cloak, the dealer and Naruto. The cloaked man said, "The name's Ryan and I will call." As he laid out 3,000. The dealer passed out the cards again and Naruto said, As he looked at his 2 cars and he said, "I got 4 aces." As he flipped over 2 aces to match the ones in the pot. Ryan gritted his teeth and shot the dealer a look and the dealer nodded slowly as Naruto took his money and as the dealer started to shuffle Naruto said, "Hey, you missed too." Making everyone look at their table. The dealer said, "Excuse me." Naruto said, "Ryan, you forgot to hand him back your cards." "See, I can see them under your watchband." Ryan gritted his teeth and Davin came over and pulled the sleeve back and said, "So, trying to cheat, huh Ryan? Thanks kid. This guy's taken a few of my friends to the cleaners lately." Naruto said, "Sure I guess. If the dealer wouldn't have moved his head toward the cards when I was getting my money I would have never have seen them." Davin eyed the dealer who said, "He's lying boss." Davin glared and said, "Rose." And a mirror door opened up and a female voice said, "Yeah boss." Davin said, "Bring the tape for this table now and put it on the screen." Never taking his eyes off the dealer or letting Ryan go. Naruto shrugged and a brown hair girl in her late teens came out with brown eyes and a black cocktail dress and she had a tape in her hand and she put it in a VCR under the TV and she asked, "What you need to see boss?" Davin said, "The kid here said." The dealer nods toward Ryan here when the kid was getting his money. The girl said, "Right." As she hits play and rewinds it and she then hits play and said, "He's right boss look." Davin looks as she rewound it and played it and he said, "Thanks kid. Looks like you found a dirty dealer in my club. Let's take you boys to the Anbu." As he pushed a button on the wall and dragged the men to the door. A few minutes later he returned rubbing his hands together to get the dirt off and he walked over and said, "Look kid. I think I got off on the wrong foot. The name's Davin and I own this place." The trio over there said, "You're their apprentice huh?" Naruto said, "Yeah, the name's Naruto Uzumaki." Davin said, "Yeah, kid, everyone knows you but look, since you not only helped take a shark out for me but also gave me proof of a dirty dealer you can come here whenever you want. You got my respect kid." Naruto smiled a little and said, "Thanks Davin." Davin said, "No problem. Look, you don't seem to be that interested in this stuff are you?" Naruto said, "Not really. In fact only reason I am here is because Shikaku-sensei was told to give me some kind of talk that Yoshino told him to give me." Shikaku slammed his head on the table as several people snickered and Davin said, "Yeah. I see. Tell you what kid, how about you go on into the back room with Rose and she can help give you the talk along with help you if you need it. Give the kid the works Rose because I want him to come back over and over again. When word spreads about his luck people are going to want to see if the rumors are true and I want a chance to win some of that money back." "Okay." Naruto said, "Hey, if you're not going to throw me out like most places I will come back whenever my sensei will let me." Davin said, "That's good kid, now go on back and have fun." As Rose walked over and put her hand on his shoulder and lead him to the back. After the door closed Inoichi burst out laughing and said, "You do know that Yoshino going to kill you right? I mean you just got him sent to a brothel." Shikaku muttered, "Troublesome." Davin walked over and said, "The kid's not so bad." Inoichi said, "And?" Davin said, "So what did you really bring him for?" Shikaku said, "The kid's being trained to be CIA. He's going to need to know about the market. Think you can help get him a few contacts?" Davin said, "Perhaps. Tell you what, I will have Rose run him through the ropes a few times and see what she can do with him. If anyone can help the kid learn about the market it's her." Shuza said, "Thanks Davin." Davin said, "Just bring him by the next time I got a shark causing me trouble. He may not show it but he's got a good eye for details." Inoichi said, "The trouble is just trying to get him to show it but yeah, we will." As they got their next round of drinks. As Rose led Naruto into the back room they walked into another room that looked like a bedroom and an office. Rose said, "So what's your name kid and how old are you?" Naruto said, Naruto Uzumaki and I am 15. Rose nods and said, well, sit down and get comfortable on the bed. I got a few things I need to take care of, so just give me a minute. As she walked over to the office desk and sat down. Naruto looked around the room and sat down, and Rose typed on a computer a few minutes and said, so what do you know about woman kid? Naruto said, just what I read in Gigi's books and a few magazines. Rose said, also your sexy no jutsu, as she was looking at the screen. Naruto looked at her and asked, how do you know about that? Rose said, word spreads about things quickly kid, and Icha Paradise doesn't give enough credit to woman. Naruto asked, what do you mean? Rose said, well, let's take breast for example. As she got up and took her shirt off and didn't have a bra on, and Naruto got red-faced. Naruto swallowed and asked, what about them? Rose said, show me your sexy no jutsu and I will show you what I mean. Naruto stood up and put his hands together and said, sexy no jutsu. And he changed into his female self with clouds, and Rose said, alright, hold that until I tell you to, as the smoke cleared away. She walked over and said, touch your chest now. Naruto did and asked, what about it? As it looked and felt like basically a 3D magazine. Rose said, alright, do what you just did to my breast, as she grabbed his hands and put them on her breast. Naruto was still red-faced, but he was more thoughtful and said, thier, more fleshy and not as stiff. Rose said, right. You based this jutsu off of a magazine, and since you don't know a lot about women, you don't know how to use this jutsu effectively. Now see how you don't even have nipples or the areolas. As she demonstrated the parts for him to see. Naruto nods slowly, and Rose said, that's just the beginning of your flaws on knowledge of women. Your facial muscles are wrong. You need to raise the cheekbones and curve the jaw and remove the Adam's apple. Now release the jutsu and do it again, but add in the new information. Naruto nods, and after redoing it, Rose said, better but still not perfect. Now if you are going to use this jutsu on mission, then you need to make it not you but someone new. That means the blonde hair needs to go and the whiskers also. Naruto flinched but asked, what should I do about my hair? Rose said, red, make it red. If you are going to use it, you don't want to be plain and be unnoticed, but you also want to seem natural, and you still need to pucker the lips a little more but thin them. Women's lips are not naturally that big, we use lipstick to make them larger. You also need to add layered lashes to your eyes. Try again. Naruto nods, and he was getting over being embarrassed because he was actually learning, and Rose said, much better, but drop the ponytails, go with layered waves like mine, as she showed him. Naruto quickly did it again, and Rose said, good, you look more real. Now your breasts are too big. For a female ninja, more than a handful each is too much and will mess with your job by making you top heavy. After Naruto made them smaller, Rose smirked and said, good, now you look better. Now the next thing we need to work on is your legs. No hair on your legs. Women hate hairy legs, and try to make your legs just a little longer, adding more height to your overall size. Naruto quickly did the changes, and Rose said, good, good, now let me look, as she walked around and said, alright. Your ass cheeks need to have a little more curved muscle, so that way the muscle flex when you walk. Naruto frowned and said, I think I know what you mean. As he changed again, and Rose said, not so much, you want shapely, not some kind of superhero. Naruto sighed, and after changing again, Rose said, good, now that you got that out of the way, let's work on the walk. Walk for me. Naruto walked, and Rose said, no, 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 no. You are walking like a man. Woman, walk with a sway where when your shoulders only slightly move with the sway up and down while your hips go right and left. Try again. After around 20 minutes, Rose said, alright, you got the walk down good enough for now. You will need to walk more, but for today that will be good. Now it's time for your final lesson for the day. Strip. Naruto turned red, and Rose said, just do it, damn it. Naruto sighed and stripped, and Rose crawled up on the bed after she stripped and laid spread eagle, and she moved her finger with a come here motion and said, I want you to come here, and I want you to explore this area. Look, touch, taste, whatever the hell you want to do. I will tell you if you do something wrong. I want you to see what makes me feel good, what doesn't, and each time you find something new that you don't have, then I want you to add it to yourself, but test it first with one of your cage bunshin. Make it like your harem jutsu in the form you're in now to compare, so that way the next time you actually make yourself look like a woman you can be as accurate as possible, okay? Naruto nods, and as he followed her orders he leaned the parts of a woman and did what as she explained it. About an hour later she said, "Alright, that's good for today. Now I want you to do it one more time on you, but do it dressed while I get dressed," as she got up off the bed. Naruto got up and Rose quickly got dressed, and when Naruto changed into a female again Rose said, "Good, now let me hear your voice." Naruto asked, "Like what?" Rose said, "Softer Naruto." Naruto asked in a softer voice, "Like this." Rose said, "Good. Now you have a new look and you need a new name." "I know." As she clapped her hands and a man walked in and said, "Yeah, boss." Rose said, "Tom, I need you to make a new identity for Miko here. I want you to put her age at 16, her home village is Tanaku City. She's comes and goes as a traveler. Parents deceased and no last name." Tom pulled out a camera and took a picture of Miko and said, "Give me a half hour," as he left. After the door was closed Naruto asked, "What was that?" Rose said, "Giving you a background so that way if you ever need to be a woman to infiltrate so you can assassinate someone then you have everything ready. I got a mission for you. I want you to get a job Miko somewhere in Konoha. I don't care where, but only your sensei will know who you really are. You must work at least 3 hours a day at this job several days a week and try to be as womanly as possible and don't blow your cover. If you can do this every day you succeed. I will teach you something new about either woman, sex, or other things like how I know so much info about you. If you fail I will never speak to you again. Do you understand? This is a once-in-a-lifetime offer." Naruto nods quickly and Rose said, "Good, now remember, you are Miko, not Naruto, you can't act like Naruto. Now let's try a few scenarios while we wait." Around an hour later Naruto walked back out to the club with Rose, who said, "Come back anytime Naruto." Naruto said, "I will Rose, and thanks." Inoichi walked over and asked, "So how did it go?" Naruto gulped and said, "Let's talk about it elsewhere, okay?" All three men nod and leave with Naruto, and Davin walked over to Rose and said, "So?" Rose said, "He understands woman better now. He's also got a new background and name." Davin nods and said, "And?" Rose looked around and said, "Kushina would love her daughter. Miko looks just like her at that age," as she turned and walked back into the mirror door. Davin chuckled and thought, "Still upset over losing your godmother, huh? Don't worry Crystal Finger Rose, or should I call you by your real name since this is personal Ellen, her son will fill that hole for you. I can feel it." Naruto, Shikaku, and Shuza all arrived on top of the Hokage monument, and Naruto blinked and asked, "Why are we here?" Shuza said, "You're comfortable here and we're not likely to be overheard, and the way you acted back there you don't want to be overheard." Naruto sighed and put his hands together and was covered in smoke, and when the smoke cleared they could see Miko, and she said, "I was told only you could know," as she pulled out some ID and handed it to them. "I am supposed to find a job and try at least 3 hours a day and not to be discovered. I am not a woman, so I can use this disguise in the future if need be. Every day I do it I can go and meet Rose again and she will teach me something new," as she took the ID back and changed back into Naruto. All three men looked at each other and Inoichi said, "Alright, answer me something. How are you feeling toward Ino now?" Naruto closed his eyes and turned to look over the village, and Inoichi said, "That settles it. Here's what we will do. I will hire a new worker, part-time at my shop. Her name will be Miko. Miko will get a chance to learn about flowers and keep her cover while observing Ino. This will give you a chance Naruto to get even with her because she won't see you and will blame herself. From what we heard while you were in the back she honestly thinks you left the village last night, and we got all those who need to know to play along for now, including her sensei, the Hokage, and her teammates." Naruto said, "But I don't want to see her," as he glared at Inoichi. Shikaku said, "I think it's a good idea Naruto, because you need a job but you also need somewhere that we can still have control of your training. If you are going to impersonate a woman then you need to know what women think and act, and Ino is a perfect example and she can explain flowers to you. I know you don't want to do it, but think about the deer. You know we don't want to do what we did with them, but it is necessary. This is necessary as well because there will be times you will have to work with others you won't like or who won't like you, and maybe even Ino herself. At least this way if you can actually fake being a woman and not get mad at her, then perhaps Rose will help you even more. Naruto frowned and said, I don't know if I can. What if I can't do it? Inoichi said, just try to pretend you're someone else when you're with her. Maybe think of yourself as Miko like you have always been a girl, and then when you're Naruto you're Naruto. Naruto bit his lip and he said, I will try, but I don't like it. What if she asks me things? I may pretend to be a girl but my mind is that of a guy's. Shuza said, that's why this will be a good experience for you, Naruto. If you are going to fake being a woman, then you need to be able to think like one, at least enough to fool people. Naruto turned and asked, but why am I faking being a woman? Why not fake being another guy? Inoichi blinked and asked, wait, you mean you don't know? Naruto asked, know what? Looking confused, Inoichi looked at him and said, you really don't know, do you? Naruto started to get mad when Shikaku said, you're a shapeshifter, Naruto. Making Naruto ask, huh? Shuza sighed and said, we have Anbu reports in your file the Hokage gave us. In the reports it showed that your henges are real, not illusions like everyone else's are. We don't know if it has something to do with your parents like a bloodline or if it is something because of the fox, but that is another reason we decided to take you as our apprentice. You have the ability to actually be a woman. Let me show you what I mean. Change back to Miko a moment. Naruto did, and then Shikaku was covered in smoke and changed into a woman, and Shuza touched Naruto's head and said, see, you appear to be a taller woman, but when anyone else does it. As he went to touch Shikaku his hand went right through the illusion and it distorted, and Naruto said, but, as Shikaku dropped his henge. Inoichi said, that's why every person you knocked out doing that jutsu passed out, because as best as they can tell you are really a woman in that henge, because nobody can detect it unless you do something to make us believe you are one, and I have been standing here doing every dispel technique that is known and you are still a woman at this point, meaning that it is impossible to dispel, giving you the perfect tool to infiltrate places that some people can't. Miko pouted and said, nobody told me. Nobody ever tells me anything about me, not my parents, not the fox, not my ability, not how to live. It's so unfair. Stupid baka fox, it's all his fault, as she crossed her arms. Inoichi said, now do you understand why we are pushing you into doing this? Miko said, fine, but I still need a place to stay, and since I won some money I need to get some new cloths as well for Naruto and myself, because I can't be only wearing one set of cloths. As Miko looked at them, Inoichi sighed and said, you sound more like a woman every minute, Miko. Miko said, I am one Yamanaka-sama. I'm 16 years old and I have been traveling since my parents died when I was little. They were merchants who were attacked by some bandits. I picked up a few things over the years, and even though I never went to the academy I do know a little about chakra, but not much. I would really like a job so I can perhaps settle down here and find me a place to live. All three men were stunned, and Inoichi said, just call me Inoichi, and I happen to have a place you can stay for a while at my place. Miko frowned a moment and said, how much is rent, Inoichi-san? Inoichi said, don't worry about it. As long as you work for me you can stay there. Miko said, thank you sir, that will be very helpful. Shuza said, alright Miko, that's enough for now. It's time for Naruto to train some more. Miko pouted and said, no fair. As she was covered in smoke and Naruto put his hand on his forehead and said, whoa, that was weird. Shikaku asked, what do you mean? Naruto said, I felt like I was someone else. I mean, I felt like everything she was saying was real and I was watching just like you were. I could still see and hear, but it felt like my body was someone else. Inoichi closed his eyes and said, let's worry about it later, Naruto. Shuza, I think you were next. Shuza said, yeah, come on Naruto. It's time to teach you at my house. As he placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and left in a shushin. After they were gone, Shikaku said, MPD. Inoichi said, looks like it. I think with us pressuring him into doing it as well as his mental state, for the moment his mind fractured just enough to create a second personality. Truthfully, I am surprised it hadn't before now though. Miko already is treating Naruto as a third person from her speech about cloths, and Naruto seems to be able to tell Miko is different. Shikaku asked, how do you want to do this? I mean, you know more about the mind and mental disorders than either of us. Inoichi said, for now I will observe and see if it is really one or if he is really a good actor, and if so determine if it is a conflicting personality. If it is, then I will help him deal with it, but if not, then it might help him. Shikaku said, Alright. Well, I guess I better go home and see if my wife killed the Hokage. CYA. As he shushined away. Inoichi thought, what a mess, as he shushined away. Naruto and Shuza both appeared in Shuza house and Shuza said, Alright Naruto, my wife is at the restaurant most of the time so you won't see her much so it's just you and me for now. I know you can't read kanji. I got a few books on kanji for you to read today to help you overcome this problem. They're over there on that table along with enough pens and paper for you to use 10 kage bunshin to learn and read from them while practicing. Don't have them dispel because I will be checking them and make sure they are doing right and help correct any mistakes they make. Now do you know how to read normal? Naruto sighed and said, Mostly, there are still times I have trouble. Shuza said, That's okay. Everyone has trouble sometimes but me and the others are here for you now to help you with them. Now go ahead and create those kage bunshin while I go get some stuff. Naruto nods and creates 20 and Shuza said, That's fine Naruto, we will work on control with those other 10 in a moment. Just get 10 started on what I told you to. Naruto said, Okay, you heard him guys. 11 of them started to go over and one got pulled back by the real Naruto and Shuza returned with a cutting board, a knife and several vegetables and he said, Alright, the 10 of you that are left, I got 10 leaves. I want you each to put the leaf on your heads like this and use your chakra to make it float just a little above your head. Too much and it will blow off, too little and it will fall off or won't move. Now you try while me and the original start. As he demonstrated what to do and the clones grabbed a leaf he had in his hand and the real Naruto went to a dining table where Shuza was. Shuza said, Alright Naruto, this is going to help you with your diet as well as your skills with a bladed weapon like knives and kunais. As Shuza speed sliced a carrot in less than 2 seconds into pieces as thin as paper shocking Naruto. Shuza chuckled and continued. It will take you a while to be able to do that but I will show you how but we got to start with the basic. I don't know if you know vegetables or not so I will just call out the name and show you how I want you to cut them and help correct you as we go along okay? Naruto said, Okay. Shuza said, Now can you create any more kage bunshins? Naruto said, Of course, why? Shuza said, Create a small number of them and I will get them started on something else real quick. Naruto created about 15 and Shuza pulled out several recipe cards boxes and he said, Alright, I want you each to pick a card in these boxes and read it until you can tell me everything on it without trying. I will come around and test you when you think you got it and if you do then you will go to a new recipe, if not you will have to keep reading until you can tell me the directions exactly right. This is a memory exercise as well as cooking help. This will help your future training greatly as well as your life. Now take them and begin. Now Naruto, that item I cut was a carrot. It is good for eyesight. Now how you cut them is like this. As he started to teach Naruto slowly how to cut, how to hold a cutting knife and other things. While this was going on Shikaku arrived back at his house and saw Shikamaru playing shogi with a kage bunshin of Naruto and Choji was talking about ramen with another and he looked over at a kage bunshin of Naruto who looked scarred for life talking with Yoshino at the eating table and he saw a couple of others all still working on kanji and he said, How are they still here? I thought they would be dispelled by now. The one at the table with Yoshino said, Kill me please. I never want to hear another do and buck lesson of life again. Everyone looked at him and Yoshino said, I thought you might need some help so I gave his kage bunshin the talk also. Where's Naruto? Shikaku said, He's with Shuza for now and then he's got some other things he's got to do that secret. Yoshino nods and asked, So how did he take it? Shikaku said, Okay, why? Yoshino said, Just wondering. Shikamaru's voice caught everyone's attention and he said, Good job. It took me 22 moves to beat you that time going up from the 10 originally. The clone said, Maybe I can get good enough to beat you eventually. Shikaku said, Well how close are you guys to running out of chakra? One doing kanji said, I think a while, we're not really using any energy right now but I don't know. Shikaku frowned and looked at the other ones in the room and he said, You should have all been dispelled when we left earlier today from being so far away from the original Naruto. That was over 3 miles difference between you and the original and most kage bunshins only go about 1 mile at most. Once said, Well what can you say, I'm not normal and why do I feel like I had a change earlier? Making everyone look at the clone and then back at Shikaku who asked, Do any of you others feel that way? 3 raised their hands and he said, It appears information can go both ways indirectly. Choji looked up and asked, did Naruto have a change earlier? Shikaku sighed and said, sort of. I can't explain it because it's a secret to his training, but he's still a man and don't mention any of this to anyone. Shikamaru said, troublesome. So he used the sexy no jutsu again. And Shikaku sighed and nods and Choji said, oh, is that all? As he went back talking about ramen. Inoichi appeared inside his flower shop and he looked around and saw the closed sign and he thought, strange, why is the shop closed and Ino here? As he went toward where he felt Ino chakra. He went up the stairs and heard crying and he saw Ino door was open and he saw her sitting on the floor with her knees to her chest crying and he walked over and sat down behind her and put his arms around her and said, there princess, tell daddy what's wrong. Ino cried and said, everyone hates me and it's all my fault. Naruto gone and they hate me for it. Inoichi said, what makes you think everyone hates you, dear? Ino said, because Choji said he didn't want his valuables to come up missing. They both know what I did, as she burst into tears again. Inoichi sighed and said, you have to understand Ino, a lot of people who know you have been hurt by you and their trust in you has been put to the test, but not everyone knows. Ino said, but Naruto left and once everyone finds out he left they will wonder why and then when they find out they will know and hate me. Inoichi asked, what are you more hurt about, that people know about what happened or Naruto leaving? Ino said, Naruto leaving. Inoichi asked, why, I thought you hated Naruto. Ino looked at her dad and said, I don't hate Naruto, I. Inoichi asked, you what? Ino said, I just never really got to know him. Inoichi asked, so why does that hurt you more than knowing people know? I would think that it would be the opposite if you really don't know him. Ino looked down and said, I don't understand it, daddy. Why does it hurt so much to know that he left because of me? Inoichi said, I don't know, dear. It's something you will have to find the answer to. Ino said, but it won't matter because he's gone and nobody is ever going to see him again. Inoichi said, you don't know what you got until it's gone. Ino looked at her dad and asked, Daddy, can you help me please? Inoichi said, I don't know, dear, what do you want me to do? Ino said, help me find him. Inoichi blinked and asked, why? Ino turned and looked at her dad and said, if I can find him I can tell him I am sorry and then he can come back. Inoichi asked, why do you want him to come back, dear? Ino said, because if he comes back then everyone will quit hating me and. Inoichi said, so it is the feeling of being hated you are crying about. It's not Naruto. Ino sighed and thought, damn it, why are none of my plans working out right? I thought if I was miserable when dad got here he would help me find Naruto so things could go back to normal. And said, yes. I never been hated before and I don't know what to do. I was always the good girl, always the popular girl that everyone looked up to, but now everyone's looking down on me. Inoichi said, finally. Now you're starting to understand a little. Ino said, oh God, I am an awful person. Naruto left completely destroyed and here I am worrying about only myself. A female voice that caught both their attentions said, that's human nature. As both looked at saw Miko standing there. Ino said, who are you? Miko said, sorry to interrupt but your friend Shuza just dropped me off, Inoichi-san. If this is a bad time I can come back later. As she made a motion move toward the stairs. Inoichi said, no, that's alright Miko, this is my daughter Ino, this is Miko, the new employee. Ino's eyes got wide as she flinched and said, new employee daddy but. Inoichi said, yes, Miko here was referred by an old friend and she's new in town needing a place to stay and work, and since our talk last night I figured I could at least give her a job and a place to stay until she could get on her feet in case you don't work here anymore like we talked about, so that way I have someone trained ready to go. Miko said, perhaps I should go back down to the store, sir. Inoichi said, no, that's alright, Ino, why don't you go ahead and get to know her and show her around to help her get started. Ino looked at her dad with betrayal in her eyes and said, but. Inoichi said, now Ino. As he walked out of the room making Ino flinch. Miko said, I'm sorry about interrupting Ino, but I called and no one answered and I heard your talking and I came to let Inoichi-san know I was here and I didn't mean to overhear or cause any trouble. Ino looked down and bit her lip and said, no, it's okay. It's all my fault anyways. And thought, it is all my fault. How could all of this have happened because of me? Miko saw her fidget and said, Inoichi-san said I could stay in some loft here. And Ino's eyes got wide as she felt hurt and thought, that was my loft and then he gave it to Naruto, but because of me Naruto left and now he just gives it to some stranger. Why? Ino gulped, ready to start crying again, and said, I see, can you give me a few minutes to get ready and I can show you around? Miko nods and Ino got up and Miko sighed, seeing the way Ino was and closed her eyes a moment and walked forward, and before Ino realized it, Miko pulled her into a hug and whispered in her ear. I may not know what's going on, but if you want to talk about it I wouldn't mind listening. A friend told me once it helps to talk about it. Ino, who was stiff at first, slowly put her arms around Miko and cried into her chest as Miko rubbed Ino back. Inoichi walked back into the doorway and he looked at Miko, looked at him while biting her lip, and Inoichi nods and leaves and Ino still cried. After Ino stopped crying, Miko stepped back a little and said, I think we might have gotten off to a bad start. My name is Miko. Ino said, Ino Yamanaka. Miko said, it's nice to meet you Ino and I hope we can become friends. Ino bit her lip and said, I would like that. As she grabbed some tissues and whipped her cheeks before saying, we better get going or daddy might get mad. Miko said, of course, lead the way. As she followed Ino back down the stairs and Ino asked, so what do you know about flowers and botany and floral arrangements? Miko said, nothing, making Ino stop and turn quickly wide-eyed. Ino asked, then why do you want to work here? Miko said, because I am always willing to learn and I need a job. Ino said, I see, well I guess the best place to start would be with the seeds and the seedlings. Follow me. As she led Miko toward the back of the shop and out a side door and down a small path where a greenhouse was. When they got in the greenhouse, Ino led her over to a section that looked like topsoil only, and Ino said, this is where we start most of our flowers. We usually just take seeds from plants we already raised or some we found in the woods or ordered from elsewhere and plant them here until they become seedlings, which is what that next section over there is. Pointing to another section that had a bunch of little seedlings popping out of the ground. Miko nods and Ino said, now for this to work so the plants can grow healthy, we have divided this large rack here into 60 separate sections so any roots they have won't get stuck together and kill each other. Miko said, seems simple enough. Ino snorts and said, you haven't got a clue yet. We have to know what the plants are that are growing, which takes careful cataloging, because if we run out of a certain type of flower it could take weeks before we get it in again, which means loss of business for us. Take this for example. This is a seed for a basic red rose. Right now it's not in very much demand, but around Valentine's Day we can't keep enough of these. All these flower beds are already full right now, so how about I let you take a personal starter kit to try and take care of yourself and see if you can make them grow. As she walked over and got a 6-divider flower pot and put soil in it and grabbed a pack of rose seed and said, okay. The instructions for these roses are on the back and you can learn to do them on your own time later. For now let me show you some of the adult flowers we have and tell you the name and the meanings behind them and then quiz you on it. As she led Miko through the greenhouse. And 2 hours later they came out of the greenhouse and Ino said, well you got most of the names down and a few of the meanings. You're actually faster on picking it up than I was. Miko said, thank you Ino. Ino looked at the clock on the wall and saw it was about 6 p.m. and she frowned and said, well the shop closed an hour ago. I guess me telling you all those names and meanings as well as occasional test was longer than I intended to. Miko smiled softly and said, I actually enjoyed it and I learned more about plants and flowers than I had imagined possible, and you have so much passion for them I am envious. Ino smiled and said, well it comes natural. My family has done this since before they originally came to Konoha. Miko said, will that be all for today? I'm a little tired. Ino blinked and said, oh right. I forgot that you're new here and you need a place to stay. You said Dad was going to let you use the loft. Miko said, that is what he said. Ino sighed and bit her lip and said, well then please follow me. As she led the way back toward the main shop and she took a side path and came to a wooden gate and said, this gate can only be opened from this side for security reason, but you can get to the loft from the side of shop. As she opened the gate and closed it after they walked out, and there was a set of stairs leading up, and Ino bit her lip and closed her eyes as she led Miko up the stairs, and she pulled out a set of keys and said, well I guess this is yours now. As she took a key off her set and gave it Miko. Miko took it and unlocked the door, and Ino walked in and turned on the light and said, "It's not very much so far. I wasn't planning on moving into this place until I was older, so there is still a lot of work needing done. The painting needs to be done, which is why I got all those paint cans there under the sheet. The washer and dryer that are over in the corner still have to be hooked up. The cabinet shelves are up, but the doors and hardware for them still have to be installed." Miko thought, "You never mentioned all this, Inoichi," as she looked around the loft apartment and said, "Well, the furniture is all here, so I can still sleep on the bed." Ino said, "Well, I guess I better go. Hope you're comfortable," as she left. After Ino was gone, Miko walked over and moved the tarp on the paint cans and looked at the cans and thought, well, there are nearly every color possible here. Ino must not have decided on a theme yet. And she walked over and locked the door and pulled the mini blind down as well as the curtains so nobody could see in, and she put her hands together and released the jutsu, and Naruto was standing there and he sighed and said, "I guess I got no choice," as he put his hands together and said, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." And 10 clones appeared. Naruto said, "Alright, we need to get this place together if I am going to live here, so I want 2 of you to put the doors onto the cabinets and then 1 of you to put the hardware on the cabinets." A Kage Bunshin said, "Hey boss, what about the painting?" Naruto said, "Not right now. I want the rest of you to work on getting that washer and dryer hooked up and then wash the sheets and covers while dusting the place so that way it's not so dusty in here." A clone asked, "What are you going to do, boss?" Naruto said, I am going to go take a long hot bath," as he walked toward the bathroom and closed the door. Naruto began to take his cloths off and opened the bathroom door and set them down and said, "Wash these when the machines are hooked up." Before closing the door, and he turned on the bathwater and looked around and thought, "It looks like Ino had the bathroom ready to use, there's towels, soap and toiletries." As he got into the water when it was ready and leaned back to relax before he slowly drifted off to sleep. In the loft, his Kage Bunshins got to work. Naruto awoke the next morning with a splitting headache and he thought, what the hell happened? It feels like my brain is exploding. As he got out of the water that was ice cold and he shivered a little and he dried off and he looked around and thought, where's my cloths? He sighed and left the bathroom and blinked and asked, how long have I been in here? As he looked at the loft and saw that the cabinets were done, the washer and dryer hooked up, the sheets in the apartment had been washed as well as the furniture moved around, and he looked over at the walls and thought, that is actually pretty good looking. It feels relaxing having a beach scene played out on the walls. As he bent down and got the cloths with a note, and he read the note. Naruto, I came by and brought you a present for your new place and told one of your Kage Bunshin to send a message to all the others that were still in use at Shuza and Shikaku Place to dispel one at a time so you don't get brain overload. Inoichi stopped me to tell you that they had called and told him they were still in use, and since I was on my here. The present I brought you is 4 sets of cloths for you and Miko each, and also a set of groceries. Come see me when you can. There are some things I would like to talk to you about privately. It's about your mother. Rose. Naruto's eyes got wide as he read it, and he quickly got dressed and went toward the door and was about to reach for it when there was a knock. Naruto thought, shit, and looked through the keyhole and saw Ino standing there, and he bit his lip and was quickly changed into Miko and said, just a minute, as he ran over and threw the note in a drawer. Miko walked back over and opened the door and said, oh Ino, what can I do for you? Ino said, can I come in? Miko bit her lip and said, sure, come on in. As she stepped aside and Ino walked in and went wide-eyed as she saw the change in the apartment, and she turned quickly and asked, how? Miko said, I got bored and thought I could fix the place up while I was here. I hope you don't mind. Ino looked around and said, no. It's actually very beautiful. More than I could do, as she looked down. Miko said, I'm sure you could have done a better job than me. I mostly just, and stopped and thought, wait, why the hell don't I have any memories of painting this? I remember seeing Rose now, but then she gave my clone the message and they dispelled. Did she do this? Ino snapped her finger several times and Miko shook her head and said, what? Ino said, you spaced out there for a moment, everything okay? Miko said, yeah, sorry about that. I just realized something someone told me recently and it was a shocker. Ino said, it's alright. I came to see if that offer was still open. Miko asked, which offer? Ino said, the one about talking about it. Miko closed her eyes and said, "Sure Ino, let's sit down though so we can be more comfortable." Ino nods and sat down on the couch and Miko closed the door and sat down and asked, "So how do you want to do this?" Ino looked away and said, "I did a lot of thinking last night after I left here. I realized some things about myself I didn't know before, some things I don't like." Miko looked at her and thought, she's being honest this time, not like last night when she was talking to her dad. Ino said, "This is hard for me. I have always been treated special by my dad, Shuza and his family and Shikaku and his family because I was the only girl and because my mother passed away when I was little. Choji and Shikamaru always let me boss them around because if they didn't I could cry and get them to relent or their parents would make them." Miko said, "Sounds like you're manipulative." Ino glared a moment and Miko looked at her unfazed and Ino's eyes softened and said, "Sorry, I don't take criticism very well." Miko asked, "So what are you trying to get at Ino?" Ino said, I think if I told you everything from the beginning you would understand better." Miko shrugged and Ino said, "It all started a couple of weeks ago. I had just graduated from the academy and I was sitting on the roof of the academy along with my teammates Shikamaru and Choji. I was ranting about how unfair it was for Forehead to be on the team with Sasuke-kun." Miko put her hands together and looked on with interest and Ino said, "Anyways we saw Naruto attack Sasuke-kun and he must have gotten lucky somehow because he tied Sasuke-kun up and hanged himself into Sasuke and left to go and try to get a kiss from his crush Forehead. For some reason he chickened out at the last second and he grabbed his stomach. I saw this and then I saw as the real Sasuke came by and he shot Forehead down and I was happy because I got an idea if I could get Naruto and Sakura together then that would make it easier for me to get with Sasuke-kun." Miko clenched her fist and thought, "That manipulative bitch, she was going to use me." Ino bit her lip and said, "I went to see Naruto after I met my sensei. Since I know Sakura so well I was planning on changing Naruto to be the perfect guy for her." Miko said, "It wouldn't work Ino. If you had to change who you are to be with someone then it's not you they are in love with but the lie." And thought, "Trust me, I know from nearly kissing Sakura." Ino sighed and said, "You're probably right and I didn't think that it would fail because all my plans had always worked before. I never faced failure before I guess you could say. Anyways I wound up never seeing Naruto that day and I wound up doing some things that were stupid thinking I was right and I wound up hurting Naruto deeply. More than you can imagine." Miko asked, "Like what? It might help to see if you really understand what you have done and help me to understand also." Ino bit her lip and said, "I accidentally stole his rent money after I broke into his apartment." Miko asked, "Why did you break in? I mean why didn't you just wait for him?" Ino closed her eyes and said, "I wish I had now. I really do but when his landlord told me about the window and acted like it was a common thing I figured Naruto just locked himself out all the time and I figured since I was there to help him that he wouldn't care." Miko growled a little and she said, "Oops, sorry, my stomach growled," as she looked sheepish. Ino said, "Oh, where was I?" Miko said, "You had just broke in." Ino said, "Right. Well I had sat down and waited a few minutes but I got bored and since I was going to try and change Naruto I thought the best way to prove my point was to show him that Forehead would like him better if his place was nice and neat so I picked up the stuff on the floor and threw it away. Turns out those things were there to hide the fact they were really valuable to him in case someone broke in. I know it sounds dumb at first but now that I know why he did it I understand." Miko had turned her head as a tear fell and she heard Ino continue, "Anyways after I did that I got thirsty and I checked his fridge and all he had to drink was spoiled milk. I went to close the door and the shelf the milk on broke and spilled milk all over my dress. I had saw a paper towel holder and got some to try and get the milk off and clean up the mess when I saw some money he had hid in the paper towels fall out and I thought it was stupid to hide money like that but it turned out I was the stupid one. I took the money and put it in my pocket but then I got tired of waiting and the stains started to set and so I left. When I got home the dress was ruined so I threw it away and when I cleaned out my pockets I found the money. I started to take it back but I figured I would force Naruto to replace my dress since I stupidly believed it was his fault." Miko said, "So you believe that because you've been treated special all your life you can treat others like shit?" Ino winced and looked down and Miko said, "You're shallow Ino, very, very shallow." Ino said, "I know, I get it now." Miko said, "I don't know if you do." From what I heard last night, it doesn't seem to be the case. It sounded like you were trying to manipulate your dad into fixing this for you. Ino winced and Miko said, he knew, you know. Your dad, I mean. From what I can tell and from what he has acted, he's not going to let you manipulate him anymore, and from what I heard, neither is anyone else now. You lived in a fantasy world before now, Ino, and they left you in the fantasy while trying to protect you from the hard truths of life. Ino asked in a defiant tone, and what would you know? You don't know me or my life. Miko leaned back and said, you would be surprised what I know about you, Ino Yamanaka. I know that this forehead girl you're talking about is named Sakura. I know she calls you Ino Pig, but I bet you don't remember who actually gave you those nicknames or why. Making Ino wide-eyed a moment. Ino asked, how do you know forehead and what she calls me? Miko smiled and said, I may never have met you before, Ino, but I know someone who has. I know Naruto. Ino flinched at that and asked, how do you know him? Miko smiled and said, just know that I know him better than anyone else does. I guess you could say I have been his conscience for a while. In fact, if it wasn't for him I wouldn't be here. Ino stuttered, what do you mean? Miko said, in a way he brought me to Konoha. He called out for help and I answered his call. Ino asked, do you know where he is? Miko said, for now he's gone. I don't know when or if he will be back. I doubt he will ever see you again though, because he told you that he was leaving and you wouldn't ever have to see him again, and one thing Naruto does is keep his word. Ino looked down and said, is there any way I can see him so I can tell him I am sorry? Miko asked, are you just wanting to say it so that way things might go back to normal? Ino flinched and Miko smiled sadly and said, I thought so. You still think you can manipulate people and get what you want? It's not going to work this time, Ino, and the people who know the truth about what has happened and now they can see right through you, and they are not going to let you use them any longer. This time your choices have caused serious consequences that even you don't realize yet. Ino asked, how do you know so much? Miko said, Ino, how would you like for a chance for things to get better for you and to have everyone's respect again? Ino bit her lip and asked, what do I have to do? Miko said, the first thing you need to do, Ino, is wake up. The world doesn't revolve around you and you can't treat others and whatever they have as trash. As long as you do that, people are going to treat you as trash. Ino sighed and Miko said, the fact you're actually listening to me and you're showing some guilt over what has happened is a start. I can't promise that things will ever be back the way they were, because everyone is always going to hold something in their hearts and minds to remember what you did, even if they forgive you. That is something you're going to have to face. Ino looked down and said, it's not fair, I never wanted this to happen. Miko said, and Naruto never wanted Kyuubi to be sealed in him. Making Ino look up wide-eyed. Miko saw the shocked look on Ino's face and she said, that's something else you're going to have to come to terms with. Now that you know the truth, you are going to be pressured by those around you to either accept Naruto or hate him for it. Either way, you are going to have someone who is friends with you now hate you for that choice. The only thing I can tell you is do whatever you feel is the one you can sleep with that night. If you can't stand yourself, then how are you going to stand what people think of you? Ino looked at Miko for several minutes, asked, why are you telling me all this and why are you helping me? Why don't you hate me like everyone else does? Miko got up and walked toward the kitchen and said over her shoulder, it's not actually hate they have for you, Ino. It's disappointment. You used to be someone people looked up to as a leader and friend. You let that person slip away and became someone you're not. As she got 2 glasses out of the cabinet and filled them with water. Ino asked, what do you mean? Miko smiled a small smile and said, did you know there were only 3 times Naruto has ever hated someone enough to actually want to harm someone, and 2 of those times was you? Ino swallowed and said, I know, one of those was what I did to start this mess. Miko said, actually, no. He didn't actually hate you then. Pissed, yes. Maybe prank you by shaving your head bald and dye it blue like a Smurf, possibly, but not hate. The 2 times he hated you was different. Ino turned as she watched Miko take a sip of water and asked, when were they then? Miko smiled a small smile and said, one was the day he gave you the name Ino Pig and Sakura Forehead. Ino's eyes got wide and asked, what? Miko smirked and said, don't remember, do you? It was back before you entered the academy. You had went to the park with Shu's wife and the boys, and Choji and Shikamaru went over to the sand to start playing and you went to the swing to swing. It was the same day you first met Sakura. Ino looked thoughtful and said, yeah, I remember that, why? Miko said, well, when you got to the swing someone was already there and you asked that person could you use the swing. That person was Naruto and he agreed and got up and you asked him to push you which he did. Ino bit her lip and after a moment said, I had forgot that. Miko said, I figured. Anyways, you swung on the swing for about 30 minutes with him pushing and you and Naruto talked a little. That was the first time anyone his own age actually wanted to play with him. Anyways, after time a group of girls gathered around a tree and they were picking on someone. Ino said, I remember, it was Sakura. I ran over to her after the girls left and we became friends. Miko snorts and said, funny you forgot something that happened between the time of being pushed and the girls leaving. Ino looked confused and said, I did, what? Miko said, you forgot when one of the older girls picked Sakura up and slammed her into a tree and you fell out of the swing and began to scream for Shu's wife to come help. You forgot when Naruto helped you up and you ran to get Shu's wife but Naruto turned and took a more direct path and over to the girls grabbing 2 handfuls of sand from the ground around the swing and threw it all over the girls around Sakura making them scream because he screamed bugs. The girls all ran away screaming thinking the dirt was actually bugs and Sakura fell to the ground. Sakura was on the ground crying into her knees and Naruto and her talked a few minutes by which time you had returned and Sakura mother was with you and Shu's wife. Naruto seeing the adults got scared and left quickly to keep from getting into trouble and Sakura ran to her mother. Ino said, well, okay I guess that could be right as I don't really remember but why would that make Naruto mad at me and how do you know all this? Miko said, I have my ways but why Naruto hated you is a little later Naruto returned and you and Sakura were sitting on the bench talking. You had just gave her a ribbon. Naruto walked up and before he had a chance to say anything Sakura stood up and said, thank you for helping me but my mommy told us that you were a bad person. Ino covered her mouth as her eyes started to tear up and she said, I remember now. Naruto was confused and said he wasn't a bad person and whoever said he was lying. I remember I got up and slapped him and called him a liar and that he must really be a bad person for calling Sakura mom a liar. I started to call for help screaming bad person because I was told to call for help when bad people were around. Miko said, yeah. Naruto was hurt because all the kids started to repeat what you said calling him a bad person and circled him and pointing finger. He glared at you and Ino and he saw the pigs on your headband and he screamed holding his cheek, shut up Ino pig. Sakura stood up and said, shut up you monster. And Naruto turned to her and said, those girls were right forehead, you are ugly. As he ran away from all the kids crying. Ino said, as she looked at her knees she had pulled up to her chest. Miko said, word spread pretty quick after that with all the kids at the playground and every time he went there they always would point at him and call him a bad person and he blamed you for it because he thought of you as his first friend who did that to him. Ino said, I had only listened to Sakura mom when she told us to stay away from him because he was a bad person. I told her I thought he was nice and so did Sakura and her mom said mommies can tell who are bad people and you should listen to them so since my mom was dead I believed her, as she looked down. Miko said, that was the first time Naruto ever hated anyone but the Hokage talked to him and told him that you didn't know who was bad and who wasn't and after a long talk Naruto forgave you because he was getting ready to start the academy then. Ino sniffed as she tried to stop crying and asked, what was the second time he hated me? Miko said, remember when you were slapped by your dad and went to your room. You were hurting then and confused but you asked him why he was hated. He told you about the Kyuubi and in that moment you changed how you felt for him and gave him pity. He hates people feeling pity for him. Ino asked, but why, that doesn't make sense. Miko said, think about it Ino. If all you have known in your life is hatred and then you are shown kindness and it's not because people care for you but pity you it's like giving a guy who's drowning a glass of water. Ino looked down and said, I didn't know, I just. Miko said, you just thought he was the poor little hurt boy who has the Kyuubi. You don't even care if it's someone you went to school with for years, you treated him like a common beggar on the street at that moment. He was mad at you for what happened to his home but he didn't hate you. He understood it was an accident but when you gave him that pity you were giving it to Naruto Uzumaki, you were giving it to the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Ino whispered, no wonder he left. Miko said, well if that's all Ino, I have somewhere I need to go, can we talk later and give you some time to think? Ino got up and said, "Yeah, I need time," as she quickly left. After she was gone, Miko walked up on the porch and looked before leaping up on the roof and went toward a back alley nearby and jumped down before releasing the jutsu and left. Naruto entered the club and Davin said, "Aw kid, I knew you would be back, so come to try your luck. Rose will be out in a few minutes if you want some more time with her, but she's with a client at the moment." Naruto frowned and said, "Sure, let's try that game," as he walked to the roulette table. Naruto shrugged and said, "Not a clue, but let's just try this." As he placed 200 on 000, everyone blinked and placed their bets other places and the dealer spinned the wheel and let the ball roll. .00 showed up, shocking everyone, and Naruto was paid 3-1 odds. Naruto said, "Cool." And he felt a hand on his shoulder and Rose was standing there and said, "Indeed it is Naruto-kun. I'm still sore from yesterday, but I would like to try that stamina again," as she grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him into the back room and then to her office, bedroom. Naruto blinked and asked, "Did you have to make everyone think that?" Rose snickered and said, "Yeah, I did. You need to get a reputation as a ladies' man, Naruto, and having a prostitute give you one will spread like wildfire." Naruto looked confused and said, "You're a prostitute?" Rose snickered and said, "No, at least not now. I was once, but I wasn't actually doing it for the money. I did it so I could get close to someone so I could kill him," as she walked over to her desk and sat down. Naruto asked, "What did you mean about my mother, and how did you paint that apartment so fast?" Rose sighed and said, "Well, you're not the only one who knows Kage Bunshin no Justu Naruto. I can only make about 6, but that was enough to paint that picture on the walls for you. Sit down and I will tell you about her." Naruto walked over and sat down while looking at her, and Rose said, "I am not originally from Konoha, Naruto. I was born in Whirlpool Country, and that picture I painted was from my memories of the place. I was 5 years old when the village was destroyed during the war. As far as I know, there were only 2 survivors of the village. Me and the woman who was my godmother, your mother." Naruto asked, "Who was she?" Rose grabbed a photo off her desk and looked at it and said, "Her name was Kushina Uzumaki. She was a ninja, a chunin when we came here. We lived here for 3 years, during which time she met your father and fell in love and became pregnant with you." Naruto said, "Who was he?" Rose smirked and said, "Let me finish telling you about your mother before I will tell you about your father, okay?" Naruto nods and Rose said, she was so excited about being pregnant. They had been married secretly for a few months when she became pregnant. She was a tomboy at heart, but she also was kind and gentle. She became a medic while we were here so she could be here for me. My parents died with Whirlpool Country, but to me Kushina was my mother. In fact, she was planning to adopt me after you were born so I could be your big sister, but then the Kyuubi came and she was killed after giving birth to you." Naruto frowned and said, "Stupid fox. He killed her, didn't he?" Rose shook her head and said, "No. I was in the hospital room when you were born. I was there when you were taken for the sealing. She was supposed to be alive to take care of you, but about 10 minutes after you were taken, a man came in and attacked her. She was weak from giving birth, but she was able to break his hip, and I attacked him, also blinding one of his eye and put a scar down his cheek, but in the process he delivered a blow to your mother's head and threw me out the window." Making Naruto gasp, Rose sighed and said, "I had broken my leg, several ribs, a concussion, and my hand from landing on the ground. I was found by Davin, who was leaving the hospital, and he took me to his private doctor and took me in after the attack. By the time I came around again, Kushina was dead. I tried to find out about you, but seeing as I was only around 8 at the time and you had already had some attempts on your life, I had no chance to be near you since the only people who knew about me were dead." Naruto said, "I see, what happened after that?" Rose said, "I wanted revenge for Kushina. Everyone acted like she didn't exist and her killer was getting away. I didn't know who he was or why he killed her, but I vowed to find out. Davin tried to talk me out of it, but I wouldn't be swayed, so he did the only thing he could, and that was to train me." Naruto was leaning forward listening, and Rose said, "He taught me the trade of the black market, contacts, the walk, the talk, the act, and I used it to search the guy out. It took me 5 years to find him. I cornered him in an alley, and here in Konoha I was questioning him why he did it after crippling him. Someone killed him from above before he could tell me who he was working for and why he did it, and I was arrested by the Uchiha." Naruto asked, "So you were able to avenge my mother and was arrested? What happened and why are you telling me all this now? Rose said, well, a friend busted me out of jail and I disappeared and created a new name for myself like Miko. I then went back to working with Davin and waited for a chance where you and I could meet and I could earn your trust so I could tell you about your mother and myself. Naruto said, so you think only meeting me yesterday and I would trust you? Rose said, no, actually I was going to wait to tell you but then a contact gave me some information after you left last night that is forcing my hand. There is a group of S-ranked missing nins called Akatsuki. What their ultimate goal is I don't know but I do know they plan to start sometime this year tracking down all of the Jinchuriki and the tailed demon so they can kill the Jinchurikis like you and extract the demons. I don't want to see my Otuto die so I figured it I told you then you would work extra hard to get stronger. Naruto flinched and thought, oh Tuto. She called me her little brother. Rose saw the conflicting emotions on his face and he looked at her for several minutes and he said, why do you call me your little brother? Rose said, you don't need a reason to care for your siblings or to call them that. I know you may never accept me as your Nei-chan but you will always be my Otuto to me. Naruto asked, who is my father? Rose got up still holding the picture in her hand and held it out to him and said, it's the only picture I have of them. As he slowly reached for it, Naruto's eyes slowly looked at it and traced his eyes over every inch of the picture as he recognized his father and his eyes trailed over his mother and the young Rose and he said, do you think my parents would love me? Rose got down on her knees and pulled Naruto into a hug and said, they would be proud of you for being so strong Otuto. Naruto smiled and said, thanks Nei-chan. Rose flinched and let a tear fall and thought, I will protect you Naruto. And she sat up and Naruto said, Nei-chan, if you're my sister then wasn't what happened yesterday wrong? Rose snorts and burst out laughing and said, oh, is my Otuto bashful now? No Naruto, that was not wrong and anyone who says it was can try to remove my size 6 shoe from their ass. Naruto said, I'm glad. I got enough shit I am dealing with right now than worrying I hurt my family by being stupid. Rose said, don't say that about yourself ever Naruto. You're not stupid. That is what others want you to believe. Naruto asked, do you know about what happened with Ino? Rose said, yeah. Naruto asked, what? What do you think I should do about her? Rose said, I could tell you to forgive her or hate her but I don't have to live with your decision, you do. Naruto said, I see. Well I should probably be getting ready to leave. Rose said, before you go can you do something for me? Naruto said, I can try. Rose got up and went to the wall and pulled a picture off the wall and slowly unlocked a safe and got a clothed item and she came back and knelt down again and said, your father gave this to me for my protection. It is probably the last one that hasn't been taken and destroyed by the Hokage. As she unwrapped the item and a tri-pronged kunai was in it. Naruto asked, what is it Nei-chan? Rose said, it's the kunai for the Hiraishin jutsu. The jutsu that made your father famous. Naruto looked on in awe at the kunai and Rose said, I've kept this all these years so I could give it to you when I told you about our family. I have made a mold of it out of clay to have the seal copied in case it was destroyed. I would like for you to try and use this kunai. Naruto asked, what do you mean? Rose said, I had it x-rayed. Inside of this kunai is tube of blood along with a blood recognition seal on the tube. I believe that is the key to using this jutsu. I think that is why nobody ever figured out the way it works because the blood inside determines who is summoned. If I am right then you being his son plus what I did will make it where you can use this. If it works then we can trick the recognition seal and repeat it over and over again. Naruto said, I don't understand. Rose said, do you see that tiny little hole at the top of the kunai that looks like a string could go through it? Naruto nods and Rose said, I won't tell you how I did it but I took the blood out of the tube inside of it and I want you to refill it with your blood so can you cut your hand and let the blood go inside of the small hole? Naruto shrugged and pulled out a kunai and cut his hand and he held it over the small hole and after cutting his hand several times Rose said, okay, let's try it. As she channeled chakra into the kunai and threw it at the wall. The next thing Naruto knew he was falling on the floor across the room from the bed and Rose was wide-eyed and smirked and said, congratulations Otuto, you're the second yellow flash of Konoha. Naruto shook his head clearing the cobwebs and said, okay, that was weird but now what? Rose said, come over here while I get someone. I can have some more of these made so you can use them in battle, and I will keep the molds so if people try to take your kunais then I can just make some more, but I am going to need a pint of blood from you to go into the kunais, okay? Naruto said, sure Nichan. Rose smiled and got up and left the room, and Naruto walked over and picked up the photo of his parents and thought, I am glad to know who you were finally and that you all didn't abandon me, but it's just more for me not to think about right now while I have other things to worry about. I don't know if I trust you yet, Rose, but I will play along for now just like I am doing with everyone else. I don't know who I can trust any longer, but the one thing I can do well is act. A few minutes later Rose came in with another woman who looked about Naruto age, and she had a small bag with her and said, Is this who you wanted me to get the blood sample from, Rose-sama? Rose said, yeah, and think you could do that trick for him while he waits to fill the bag, as she sat back down. Naruto asked, what trick? The woman said, don't worry about it, Naruto-sama. Just take everything off so I can get that blood sample. Naruto frowned and looked at Rose, who said, relax, it will be okay. Naruto sighed as he stood up and slowly took his cloths off and sat back down, and the woman put a rubber band around his arm and said, you might feel a little stick. As she pushed a butterfly needle into his arm and then hooked an IV bag to it that started to fill with blood. Naruto laid back and closed his eyes when he felt something, and he looked down, and the woman said, not all us working girls fuck, Naruto-sama, I give custom massages. Now what I am going to do is work on the muscles around your stomach. These are some of the most overworked muscles for ninja, and yet they never get to rest. As she rubbed her hands laced with chakra across his stomach. Naruto laid back and his eyes fluttered and said, I never caught your name, as he felt the pleasure from her touch. The woman said, don't worry about my real name, Naruto-sama. Naruto asked, what's with the Naruto-sama crap? It makes me feel old. The woman looked at Rose and said, I'm your first contact into the underworld, Naruto-sama. I may not look it, but I am a medic. Rose-sama pulled some strings and rescued me from mist where I would have been killed because of my bloodline. My bloodline allows me to heal nearly any injury by having the one who is injured feed off of my blood. If you ever need something taken care of medically that you want done unofficially, you can call on me. Now, as I said, you don't need to know my real name, but in the underworld I am called Chika. Naruto relaxed and said, I see, I take it that Rose set it up for you to be my contact. The question is why you though? Chika said, you're smarter than you make others believe. The answer is easy. This is what I really look like. As she was covered in smoke and Naruto looked at his eyes went wide and said, I be damn, I thought you were dead. Shio smirked and said, been a long time, hey Naruto-sama. Naruto glared at Rose and said, please explain to me why the only doctor from Konoha General Hospital who I was told died nearly 2 years ago that treated me as a human is here like this. Shio said, I crossed the wrong person on the council and they arranged for me to be sent to Mist for a mission that I was sold out on. Had Rose-sama here not have called in a few favors, I really would have died on that mission, and if I would have shown back up as myself, then the person I crossed would have made sure I had an accident, so I traded my services as an unethical doctor to Rose, and now you. Naruto said, very well Chio, I will remember you should I ever need you. Is that all? Chio pointed and said, we have been done for about 5 minutes now. As Naruto looked at, he already had the needle out of his arm and said, you were always gentle with the needles. Chio chuckled and said, will that be all? Naruto asked, how will I contact you if I need you? Chio said, come to the brothel and ask for a massage from Chio. If I am available I will contact you then. Naruto said, alright, as Chio left. After she was gone Naruto said, how many contacts have you got set up for me to learn Ne-chan? Rose said, 5, Chio your medic, 1 for weapons, 1 for info, 1 for money and 1 scavenger. Naruto said, I see, so is that all because I don't know what my sensei had planned for today? Rose said, yeah, unless you need something from me don't contact me again until I contact you in a week or 2. I got some things to take care of and you don't want to draw too much attention to me in this place. Naruto said, sure Ne-chan, well I better get going. As he got up and walked toward the door, and Rose said, by the way, I know you haven't accepted me completely yet. I respect that until you do Otuto. Naruto didn't say anything as he left, and Rose smirked and thought, he's so much like you, Kushina is scary. When Naruto was walking down the street, a woman in a trench coat appeared and said, hello Gaki, I've been looking for you. Naruto looked around and asked, What do you want from me? The woman said, to see if I accept you as my student. I told those 3 dickheads I would give you a chance to prove you're worth my time. Meet me at training ground 44 in 20 minutes, as she shushined away. Naruto thought, what now, as he took off. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.